In the United States, violent extremists embark on a campaign of terror nearly 2 decades before the Oklahoma City bombing. Bank robberies, bombings, escalating acts of destruction. When their agenda turns to murder, FBI counterterrorism experts team up with state police to stop a group of violent radicals before they strike again.
In the 1970s, a string of bank robberies and bombings spread fear and destruction along the East Coast. The FBI faced a new breed of criminal, the domestic terrorists. I'm Jim Kallstrom, former head of the FBI's New York office. For nearly a decade, these self-proclaimed revolutionaries operate underground. Law enforcement vowed to unearth them once and for all.
Interstate 80 is an isolated stretch of highway in northern New Jersey. On December 21st, 1981, Trooper Philip LaMonaco of the New Jersey State Police makes a routine traffic stop. The driver seems nervous. LaMonaco sees that he has a gun.
Put your hands up on the steering wheel! Put your license up on the dash! Step out of the vehicle now! Keep your hands up! Back up against the car now! Stay there! Don't move, just stay there! Got any more weapons on you? Keep stay there! Don't you move! Now, sir, stay in the car! Stay in the car, sir! Stay in the car! Stay in the car, sir!
A passing motorist spots the empty police cruiser and stops. He checks to make sure everything is all right. In the snow, he sees the road trooper, bleeding and motionless. He uses the police radio to call for help.
State Trooper Barracks, go ahead.
I'm here on I-80. I'm at a patrol car.
What's your name, sir?
Troopers on duty at the Blairstown State Police Barracks are surprised to hear a civilian voice on their radio.
Trooper's on the ground. He's motionless. I think it's a shot. Not moving at all.
Stay at the car, sir. We're on the way.
All available troopers respond to the report of the shooting.
We have an officer shot. Officer down.
Charles Coe is a major with the New Jersey State Police.
Virtually every road trooper that was on duty that day responded to the scene. We're all basically road troopers to start with. That's where we started from. We all knew the dangers involved, and of course you never think it's going to happen to you, and you really don't think it's going to happen to someone like a Phil LaMonaco.
LaMonaco is a legend in the department. Arriving at the scene, Lieutenant Richard Ryan can't believe he's been shot.
Initial shot struck Phil in his chest area. He was wearing a bulletproof vest, but the impact of the shots kind of turned him a little, and one of the shots went in under his armpit and went directly into his heart and basically killed him, that one shot.
Investigators find LaMonaco's service revolver empty. All 6 rounds fired, indicating the trooper had gone down fighting. Lieutenant John Mendres processes the crime scene, finding further evidence of the gun battle.
I obtained pieces of glass fragments, 12 9mm bullet casings at the scene. They were in the snowbank and in the general area.
From the size and number of bullet casings, Mendres believes the murder weapon is a 9mm semi-automatic pistol. He searches for the gun but it is nowhere to be found. EMTs transfer Philip LaMonaco's body to the hospital as 250 police officers go after his killer. New Jersey and Pennsylvania State Police stop and question motorists. One man remembers seeing two men as they left the scene. They were driving a 1977 Chevy Nova with Connecticut license plates. Police set up checkpoints along the Delaware River. Officers search miles of highway and back roads looking for the killers.
The response was overwhelming. People were coming out of the woodwork to help us and offer leads and try to help us find the car, find the people responsible for this.
Hours later, a narcotics detective and a state trooper find the Nova. The car has been abandoned on a rural road 3 miles from the crime scene. Detectives find an empty holster. Troopers search the vehicle for clues. They find several bullet holes in the car's exterior.
It was a shot pattern into the hood of the car, into the windshield, and the right front passenger window was shot out, which indicates that he was shooting at the passenger.
Investigators suspect it was likely the passenger of the car who murdered Phil LaMonaco. The driver was in such a hurry to ditch the vehicle, he left behind a crucial piece of evidence.
On the dashboard in plain sight was a Connecticut driver's license in the name of Barry Eastbury.
For now, Eastbury's name and address are investigators' only link to LaMonaco's killer.
And I actually left that scene with another trooper and immediately drove to Connecticut to follow up that lead that night. And we proceeded to the address that was in downtown New Haven, Connecticut.
The address on the Eastbury driver's license turns out to be a hotel rather than a residence.
So it was turning out to be a dead-end lead. We met with the FBI later in the morning, and they told us that they had been at that same hotel a few months earlier following a lead up on an individual by the name of Raymond Luke Levasseur.
Levasseur is one of the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives. Agents believe he is the leader of a violent radical group called the Sam Melville Jonathan Jackson Unit. The FBI suspects the group of masterminding a series of bank robberies and bombings. Now investigators wonder whether the group is also responsible for the murder of Trooper Phil LaMonaco.
I'd like to take those prints and see if we can match them up.
Agents send Levasseur's file to the state lab in New Jersey to compare his fingerprints with those found in the Nova.
Unfortunately, none of them matched, which we could not believe. It just didn't make any sense.
Ryan takes a closer look at Levasseur's wanted flyer.
I reread the flyer, and on the bottom in small print, right at the last line, it said, "May be accompanied by Thomas William Manning."
FBI agents pull Manning's file. The photo on his wanted poster is the man they know as Barry Eastbury. Examiners match Manning's file fingerprints to those lifted from the Nova, confirming that Barry Eastbury is an alias for Thomas Manning. If Manning is involved in the murder of Philip LaMonaco, investigators are up against a dangerous fugitive. According to FBI files, Manning met Levasseur in prison, where they both served time on drugs, weapons, and robbery charges.
He's been involved in several bank robberies.
The two men formed a radical group called the Melville Jackson Unit, according to Special Agent Leonard Cross.
They were well versed in a lot of guerrilla tactics. They studied guerrilla manuals. They studied a lot of the radical left literature from the late 60s, the mid 60s, and the early 70s.
The group began a reign of terror, claiming responsibility for 7 bombings in Massachusetts and New York between 1976 and 1979. including the bombing of 2 courthouses, the Middlesex County Courthouse in Lowell, Massachusetts, and the Suffolk County Courthouse in Boston, where 20 people were injured. According to their propaganda, the Melville-Jackson unit targets institutions and businesses to protest government and corporate policies they believe are unfair. FBI Special Agent Ed Peterson is investigating the radical group.
I think they viewed themselves as some champion of the downtrodden, the poor. Actually, they never did anything for the poor, and, all they were committed to were acts of violence.
Agents believe the group funds its violent political agenda with bank robberies, carefully planned operations that are executed with military precision.
It was obvious that these people were not your everyday criminals. They were an organized criminal group who were traveling the New England states and committing numerous crimes, the most serious, obviously, the murder of Trooper LaMonica.
On Christmas Eve, 1981, 2,000 law enforcement officers from several states attend the funeral of Trooper LaMonica. The wave of support overwhelms his wife, Donna.
I was just amazed that all the way up, it was a good half mile from the church, cars had started to park to come to the funeral.
Phil LaMonica was one of the most respected troopers in the state of New Jersey.
He was a great trooper. He really, really was. And I think one of the main things that made him a great trooper was he really, really loved and respected his job. He was one of the good ones.
He was the idol of a lot of young troopers. He had trained a lot of young troopers in the tactics of stopping cars and looking for contraband in vehicles on the highway.
Superintendent Clinton Pagano makes Donna LaMonica a solemn promise. The New Jersey State Police will do everything in their power to bring her husband's killers to justice.
I just could see in his eyes the sincerity, and I just knew he would make sure. That from that point is where I grew confidence in knowing they're going to get caught. Whoever they are, they're going to be found and they're going to get caught, because he promised me.
At a nearby municipal building, New Jersey and Pennsylvania State Police work closely with the FBI to find the men who murdered Trooper LaMonica. The task force follows up on dozens of leads. Firearms investigators ask gun shop owners in the area if anyone has sold 9mm ammunition to a man named Barry Eastbury.
They got a hit in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, which is right across the river from the shooting.
3 months earlier, a Barry Easterly, not Eastbury, had purchased 9mm ammunition at a gun shop in Stroudsburg. The name seems too close to be a coincidence. If these were the bullets used in the killing, the 3-month time span is an important clue.
We felt that these people resided in this general area. They weren't just passing through. We were working very closely with the Pennsylvania State Police at that time. We notified them about this find.
Pennsylvania State Police.
2 days later, the Pennsylvania State Police receive an unusual phone call.
They left their dog?
A local landlord calls with a complaint.
The Pennsylvania State Police was notified by a fellow by the name of Charles Miller, who lived in Marshall's Creek, Pennsylvania, directly across the river in the greater Stroudsburg area.
Miller owns several rental properties in the area. A dog has been abandoned inside one of his houses. He's not seen the tenants for nearly 2 weeks. According to Miller, the house was rented by a man named Barry Easterly. SWAT teams converge on the rented farmhouse.
Get out! Get out! Get out!
They search the house from room to room. Whoever lived there left in a hurry. The occupants of the house had abandoned clothing, personal photos, and even their dog. In one room, police find radical literature and a sketch featuring an AK-47 assault rifle.
We get the bomb squad out here. We got chest full of explosives.
In the bedroom, they find the tools of domestic terrorists.
The map again.
We found all types of paraphernalia, information on how to make bombs, bomb-making material.
Police also find 9mm bullets, the same caliber that killed Trooper Phil LaMonaco. They believe the rented property is a safe house, where Thomas Manning, his wife and children, lived at the time of the LaMonaco shooting.
Everything in this trunk, we've got bomb-making materials.
Investigators find documents that offer fresh insight into the radical group's operations.
Especially this right here.
They apparently were planning to pull a bank robbery in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
That's cool.
We had those schematics. We also found a critique of the bank robbery where several policemen were killed a few years before that. And all of these things they had to leave behind because they left in such haste.
In another bedroom, Sergeant Tom Evans finds a small phone book.
We began to write down all the phone numbers were in that book. There were no names, there were nicknames, and there was no area code.
Police also find a photograph of a man they can't identify.
Do you know who that is? Who's this?
According to the landlord, the man in the picture lived in the Mannings' guest room. The family referred to him as Uncle David. Investigators wonder if Uncle David was Manning's passenger the night of the shooting, and whether he is responsible for the murder of Trooper Philip LaMonaco. The search for a cop killer evolves into a manhunt for a group of domestic terrorists. A raid on an abandoned Pennsylvania farmhouse yields two important clues: a mysterious photograph and a book of telephone numbers. Dozens of phone numbers are listed. Sergeant Evans of the New Jersey State Police notes that none of them have area codes.
Trooper said to me, "Those look like Boston phone exchanges." Next morning, we went to Boston and we started to run down the phone numbers to see who we could come up with. There were at least 100 phone numbers in there. One of them had a little note on it that said rent.
How you doing, sir?
The telephone number belongs to a company in Boston that rents out apartments. Investigators meet with the manager.
Possibly one of your tenants?
I showed him the picture. He said to me, "Trooper, I'm sorry, but I hardly ever see these people. They just mail in their checks."
It looks like another dead end. The police give the phone book another look. Next to the rental company's phone number, someone has written a figure: $275.
So I said to the guy, "Do you have any apartment building or apartments that rent for $275?
The manager tells them the company has only one apartment that rents for that amount. It is currently vacant and being renovated.
So we rushed up there and stopped them from repainting the apartment. Massachusetts State Police got their forensic people in there.
The apartment has been thoroughly cleaned, but investigators find fingerprints in obscure places, on a light bulb, and behind the toilet in the bathroom. The tenant left no forwarding address, according to the building supervisor.
So at that point, the guy said to me, "Well, you ought to talk to his girlfriend."
At 2 o'clock in the morning, police interview the suspect's girlfriend.
Is there any information or anybody that you know?
Although she does not tell investigators who her boyfriend really is, she gives them the name of his stepfather. The next morning, Lieutenant Evans drives to the suburbs outside Boston to question the suspect's stepfather.
I showed him the picture and he said, "What has Dickie done now?" And I said, "Dickie who?" And he said, "Dickie Williams." We called the command post, gave him Richard Charles Williams' name. They ran that name against the fingerprints that we had, and bingo, it was him. So we had the second person identified.
Richard Williams was Thomas Manning's passenger the night Phil LaMonaco was murdered. The violent radical is now wanted as a cop killer. investigators on the case face an extraordinary challenge: finding a group of fugitives who are as elusive as they are dangerous. New England authorities and the FBI join ranks to track down Manning, Levasseur, and Williams. Special Agent Ed Peterson is assigned to assist the New Jersey police in the manhunt.
It was really important, as far as the FBI and all of law enforcement, to put them under a magnifying glass and to look at every possible contact, to try to think like they would think, to try and get into that mindset and to understand, what motivated them and where they would look to go.
The task force sifts through hundreds of hours of intelligence on the Melville-Jackson unit. According to their files, the fugitives have a history of using different aliases to conceal their identities and various mail drops to hide their locations.
We knew that we had a tough job because they did not remain in one place. They didn't do the conventional things that fugitives generally do. They went to such extremes to hide their identities.
In 1981, a man walks into the town clerk's office in Brattleboro, Vermont with an unusual request. He needs a copy of a birth certificate for an infant who died in the early 1950s. The clerk becomes suspicious.
Can you excuse me?
Brattleboro is a small town, and she knows the infant's family.
How you doing, sir? Do you have any ID on you?
Is there a problem?
No problem, sir. I just need to see your ID.
Get on the ground, but don't do it. Get out now. Get down. Get down. Down. Get out. Get.
Police later identify the man as Raymond Levasseur after finding his fingerprints in an abandoned vehicle nearby. They suspect he was trying to establish a new identity by stealing the birth certificate of a dead infant.
Headed out in the parking lot. It's a white male.
In January 1982, Thomas Manning joins Levasseur on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. Authorities turn up the heat on the fugitives. 4 months later, FBI agent John Markey responds to the scene of a bank robbery. Two masked gunmen had stolen $60,000 from a bank in Burlington, Vermont. According to Agent Markey, the precision of the operation points to the Melville-Jackson unit.
All three individuals that went into the bank went in right after an armored car delivery. One man stood in the lobby. The other two vaulted the counter. One of them took the money from the teledraws. The other one took the money that had just been delivered.
The money in the teledrawers was rigged with die packs.
They look like a stack of money. When you take them out of a bank, there's an electronic sensor that causes them to activate. And then within 7 seconds, they go off, letting off tear gas and a red dye, which dyes the money. They threw about $20,000 out the window because it had die packs in it. It was apparent to me that we ought to consider Raymond Levasseur and Thomas Manning and maybe his associate Richard Williams as possible suspects in that bank robbery.
2 months later, 3 men rob a bank in Syracuse, New York, netting $195,000. The MO is nearly identical to the Burlington robbery, but with one exception.
They only took the money that was delivered by the armored car. They did not take any of the money out of the teledraws. That way they eliminated the possible die packs. It was my opinion that we were dealing with the same people who robbed the South Burlington branch, and you could account for the change of not taking money from the teledraws because they would have discussed the die packs.
In just 2 months, over $235,000 has been stolen from area banks. Authorities are concerned that the Melville-Jackson unit is amassing a war chest to finance a new wave of terror. With the threat of more bombings looming, investigators make a difficult decision. They will try to find the terrorists by looking for their children. Pictures of the Manning and Levasseur children are distributed to schools, sport clubs, and pediatricians in the area.
Can you take a look at this and just see if you recognize any of these children?
That was very controversial. We had a lot of conversations as far as distributing the pictures of the children, because the children were innocent in this. They just were living with the parents. They were 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids.
Investigators feel they have no choice. The group is deadly, and lives are at stake.
You don't know any of the parents either, do you?
Unfortunately, the gamble does not pay off. The fugitives have hidden their children well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To make matters worse, the gang launches a series of new attacks. On December 16th, police in White Plains, New York, receive a frantic call. An unidentified man has phoned in a bomb threat to a local newspaper. According to the caller, the bomb has been planted in an office building. Fortunately, dozens of employees had evacuated before the building exploded. The blast destroyed nearly every window in the building. Inside, investigators find a communique from a group calling themselves the United Freedom Front. The UFF claims responsibility for the bombing. Agents on the case recognize the UFF's distinctive assault rifle logo.
United Freedom Front.
It is nearly identical to a sketch they found in Manning's safe house.
We actually compared those side by side, and we decided that the logo looked enough, in our opinion, that it was them. We thought that the United Freedom Front, who took credit for that bombing, was in fact the new name for the people involved in the Monarchy killing.
That's not all right.
Over the next year, the UFF claims responsibility for 4 more bombings. On December 14th, 1983, they call the press to issue a chilling statement. They intend to destroy the offices of a national defense contractor in Queens, New York. The caller indicates that a statement from the group can be found in a Manhattan mailbox. The letter denounces U.S. involvement in Central America, the Caribbean, and the Middle East. The bomb squad recovers 2 suitcase bombs before they can detonate. Finding an intact bomb is an important break for Special Agent John Markey.
The materials used in that bomb were very similar to the materials used in the Sam Melville, Jonathan Jackson unit bombings in the 70s. The elements of the bomb that was similar was the type of clock used, that the crystal on top of the clock, a hole was melted into the crystal and a brass screw was screwed in to the crystal.
Special Agent Leonard Cross is familiar with the design. He investigated the group's early bombings in the 1970s. In February 1984, Cross becomes the coordinator of the task force hunting the killers. The investigation into the radical group is now in its 8th year. The terrorists have stayed a step ahead of authorities by repeatedly assuming new identities. Agent Cross and the FBI task force decide to take a new approach.
What we tried to do was plot where we knew they had lived, safe houses, where they had bombed, where they had committed bank robberies. So we started putting this all up on a map.
Slowly but surely, a pattern emerges. The group's activities are concentrated in a 4-state area that includes New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Connecticut. In the spring of 1984, the FBI launches Operation Western Sweep, a mission designed to close in on the dangerous fugitives. In 1984, the FBI launches Operation Western Sweep, a mission to apprehend 3 key members of a violent radical group. Agents believe the group has orchestrated numerous acts of domestic terrorism. The New Jersey State Police suspect one of the terrorists also murdered Trooper Phil LaMonaco. Hundreds of investigators comb areas where the group is known to operate.
We had the bombing.
As agents uncover the group's safe houses, the FBI deploys SWAT teams to search them. But the fugitives are always one step ahead, according to Detective Richard Ryan.
It was frustrating because we couldn't apprehend them, but we felt as long as they kept committing crimes, they were still out there, they hadn't gone into total hiding, there was a better chance we could catch them.
Agent John Markey tries to predict when the terrorists will strike again. Based on the group's unique lifestyle, he develops an ingenious theory.
There were a series of 4 bank robberies in 1982 and 1983 in upstate New York along Interstate 90 between Syracuse and Albany, New York.
Markey divides the total amount of money stolen by the number of days between robberies. He calculates that the group is operating on a budget of about $737 per day.
Based on that, you could predict when the next robbery would occur. I was predicting that the next robbery would be between June 1st and June 14th of 1984.
Markey's prediction is right on target. On June 9th, the gang hits a bank in Norfolk, Virginia. The ammo is familiar. 3 armed men enter the building. 2 of them jump the counter. They subdue bank personnel at gunpoint. Ignoring the cash in the drawers, they grab bags of money that have just been delivered by an armored car service.
They did not take any of the money out of the teledrawers. That way they eliminated the possible die packs, bait money, and sounding the alarm.
The gang seems to be getting smarter with each new robbery. Investigators need a lead, however small, to break the case wide open. Special Agent Ed Peterson.
We knew no matter how good any fugitive thinks he or she is, no matter how good they think they are, some point and some time, they're going to make a careless mistake.
In the summer of 1984, the fugitives make that crucial mistake. On August 4th, the owner of a storage facility in Binghamton, New York, contacts the FBI. One of his customers hasn't paid his bill in 2 years. The manager opened the storage unit so he could auction off the contents. What he found inside terrified him.
The contents in there included materials on how to make bombs, how to handle firearms training, research on various corporations, and a lot of radical material, and a lot of Marxist-type literature.
Agents find bomb-making diagrams in the storage unit. They show a timer assembled with brass screws. Earlier in the investigation, agents found an unexploded bomb with similar brass screws at one of the group's targets. The bomb is designed to detonate a massive bundle of dynamite with a single electric charge. The distinctive design links Levasseur and his gang to bombings all over the Northeast. There are hundreds of pieces of evidence in the storage unit. Investigators follow up on every clue, no matter how obscure.
The magazines taken out of the storage bin in Binghamton, New York, at first nobody thought they would be of any value.
But an address label on an old seed catalog reveals a new name in the investigation: Jack Horning. Investigators trace the address to Ansonia, Connecticut. According to neighbors, the Horning family moved away years earlier.
The trooper that was assigned to this lead felt, again, we have another dead-end lead. However, he continued to interview people in the neighborhood, and he developed a babysitter who had lived a few houses down, and she babysat for the Horning children.
The teenager remembers the Hornings well. She tells the trooper that Mrs. Horning was a normal mom. The kids were well behaved. The entire time she worked for the Hornings, nothing out of the ordinary happened. But then she remembers one small incident.
One day she was out with Mrs. Horning and they had a motor vehicle accident.
On a hunch, the trooper follows up with the Connecticut Department of Motor Vehicles. He is unable to find an accident report involving a Mrs. Horning. But one report does match the time and location of the incident.
The key was that the babysitter was listed on the accident report as a passenger in that vehicle.
The name the driver gave police at the time was not Horning, but Himes.
This is interesting.
Judy Himes' Connecticut license has since expired. It was traded for a New York license in 1980.
From Connecticut to
Later, the New York license was turned in for an Ohio license. According to DMV records, the Ohio license is still current. Judy Himes' name, along with her address in Columbus, is forwarded to Sergeant Tom Evans.
So I called the Columbus Police Department. I said, what is at that address? And the guy said to me, it's a mail drop. And a mail drop meant that's them, that's their MO, that's what they used. They didn't have mail sent to their homes.
Okay, right, guys, go.
In Columbus, the FBI rents a vacant house across the street from the mail drop. From there, agents can monitor the facility with video cameras.
The mail drop is a 24/7 operation, so this was going to be difficult to surveil.
On November 3rd, 3.5 weeks into the stakeout, a woman arrives at the mail drop. Investigators visually identify her as the wife of Raymond Levasseur.
It's the first time now in probably over 10 to 12 years that any law enforcement agency had any of these people actually in sight under surveillance. So you can imagine how the adrenaline was pumping.
The fugitive's wife is law enforcement's only link to the terrorists. Rather than making an arrest, agents follow her, hoping she will lead them to her husband. In 1984, the FBI and a multi-state task force trail a group of domestic terrorists. The violent radicals are suspected of a series of bank robberies and bombings. And the murder of a New Jersey State Police trooper. Investigators track the group from a safe house in Connecticut to a mail drop in Columbus, Ohio. After nearly a decade, their only lead to the terrorists' location is the wife of gang leader Ray Levasseur. Agents follow her as she leaves the mail drop. They know that, like the rest of the group, Levasseur's wife is skilled at covering her tracks and at spotting a tail. They're careful to keep their distance, using aerial surveillance as a backup in case she slips away. Detective Richard Ryan.
She was on and off the highway numerous times, stopping, starting, looking around, taking local roads back onto the interstate, back off. So it was a difficult surveillance.
2.5 hours later, the target stops at a house in Deerfield, Ohio.
Once she arrived at the house, a surveillance was set up in the area from different locations as best as they could. And it was a very rural area. There were farmers' fields, cornfields, things of that nature.
New Jersey State Trooper Richard Tao watches the house from a distance.
Approximately 20 minutes later, a male subject left the house and got in his car and left the area.
The male subject is Richard Williams, the man wanted for the murder of New Jersey State Trooper Philip Lamonaco. FBI agents follow Williams to a safe house in Cleveland. They now have 2 houses under surveillance, 60 miles apart.
In one location, we had the suspected murderer of Trooper Philip Lamonaco. In one location, we had the suspected murderer of Trooper Philip Lamonaco. In one location, we had the suspected murderer of Trooper Philip Lamonaco. In one location, we had the suspected murderer of Trooper Philip Lamonaco. In one location, we had the suspected murderer of Trooper Philip Lamonaco. In one location, we had the suspected murderer of Trooper Philip Lamonaco. In one location, we had the suspected murderer of Trooper Philip Lamonaco. In one location, we had the suspected murderer of Trooper Philip Lamonaco. In one location, we had the suspected murderer of Trooper Philip Lamonaco. In one location, we had the suspected murderer of Trooper Philip Lamonaco. In one location, we had the suspected murderer of Trooper Philip Lamonaco. In one location, we had the suspected murderer of Trooper Philip Lamonaco. In one location, we had the suspected mur And the second location, we had top 10 FBI fugitive Ray Levasseur. Surveillances continued through the night and into the morning.
Around 9:40 a.m., the Levasseurs leave their house.
All right, fellas. Let me know when you're in position so we can go. Go, 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 go.
The SWAT team moves in. They arrest Ray Levasseur, along with his wife.
The call then immediately went out to Ohio, up to Cleveland, that Levasseur was in custody, so now a decision was made to raid the Cleveland, Ohio house.
In Cleveland, agents and police surround the home of Richard Williams. Williams, the suspected murderer and terrorist, gives up without a fight. After years of work, the task force has captured 2 of the group's 3 key men in less than an hour.
We had Ray Levasseur and his wife. We had Dickie Williams. The only remaining fugitives that we had was Tom Manning and his wife.
Agents question Richard Williams about Thomas Manning's location. Williams stalls for hours. With every passing moment, the fugitives have more time to escape.
Where is he?
Finally, Williams breaks down and reveals the addresses of 3 safe houses located in Jefferson, Ohio. One of them belongs to Thomas Manning.
We proceeded to that location and conducted a very extensive search.
Williams' stall tactics have given the Mannings enough time to flee, but not enough time to cover their tracks. Inside their safe house, investigators find handguns, fake IDs, and $32,000 in cash. They also find a 1,000-page record of the group's activities. In one room, agents find a police scanner tuned to a frequency used by the FBI. In another room, they find explosives and bomb-making supplies. They also find a bomb kit that contains distinctive brass screws that match unexploded bombs recovered in 1976 and 1983. They recover a 9mm semi-automatic pistol.
Smith & Wesson.
At the FBI forensics lab, technicians analyze the gun. They compare the bullet that killed Trooper Philip Lamonaco to bullets fired from the 9mm handgun.
We were able to determine that that was the weapon that was used to kill Phil Lamonaco.
Although they have finally found the murder weapon, tracing the owner of the gun will be difficult. The serial number has been filed off. Technicians use a chemical solution to raise the number. It is barely legible beneath the surface of the metal. Agents trace the 9mm to a gun shop in Norfolk, Virginia. There it was purchased by a woman named Deborah Ann Fury. Fury had listed an address in Virginia Beach. Investigators check out the location. It turns out to be another mail drop. The surveillance team waits to see who will collect the mail. When a woman arrives and opens the box, agents identify her. Deborah Ann Fury is in reality Thomas Manning's wife. The FBI has finally found a link to the last member of the radical terrorist group. In Ohio, the FBI and police have arrested key members of a violent radical group charged with robbery and domestic terrorism. One of them, Richard Williams, is suspected of killing a police officer. Two of the group's members, Thomas Manning and his wife, are still at large. It has been 5 months since Manning and his family fled their safe house in the rural town of Deerfield. The FBI traces a gun found in the safe house to an address in Virginia Beach, Virginia. As it turns out, the address is another mail drop. After weeks of surveillance, agents spot the fugitive's wife picking up the mail. Special Agent Leonard Cross.
We knew she had a scanner and should be scanning for police radio frequencies as well as FBI frequencies. We had special radios that were all encrypted that could not be picked up. And the surveillance at this point took us north.
Manning's wife leads investigators to a safe house in Norfolk about 20 miles away. They do not want to arrest her until they can be sure her husband is at home. An hour later, investigators follow her to a nearby shopping center.
Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
As an arrest team takes her into custody, a second team moves in on the safe house. Manning is now outside, unaware he's being watched.
We had no weapons. The decision was made so no one would get hurt. This would be the time to make the arrest.
Get out! 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 Don't resist! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
Thomas Manning, the last of the terrorists, is arrested in his own backyard. In 1987, Thomas Manning and Richard Williams stand trial in Somerville, New Jersey. Donna LaMonaco, the widow of Trooper Phil LaMonaco, attends the trial.
It was very important for me to be a part of the trial. I needed to be there. I needed to know exactly what went on. I wanted to make sure they were the two that killed Phil.
The two self-proclaimed revolutionaries are sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Trooper Philip LaMonaco. They receive additional sentences for their roles in a series of bank robberies and bombings starting in 1975. In separate trials, the wife of Thomas Manning is found guilty of conspiracy and sentenced to 15 years. Raymond Levasseur receives 45 years in prison for his role in the group's terrorist activities. His wife is released after spending several months in custody.
I think it's really important to set the record straight that these individuals, Levasseur, Manning, Williams, they were nothing but criminals. These guys want to call themselves as freedom fighters, revolutionaries. At the end of the day, they were criminals. And that's the bottom line. I mean, when you commit bank robberies, when you set off bombs, when you kill a police officer who's only out there doing his job, they were nothing more than criminals.
After the trials, members of the New Jersey State Police visit Phil LaMonaco's grave for the very first time.
We went as a group to his gravesite. We felt that we had the respect of Phil. He would know that we had done our best.
2 decades after Philip LaMonaco's death, people still leave flowers and flags on the side of the New Jersey highway he protected.
In Boston, a police call becomes deadly. The gunman escapes. But Boston police and the FBI vow to find him. Uncovering his past, they navigate a trail of criminal connections, false names, and hidden danger to make him pay for his brutal attack on the law.
A criminal who kills a police officer wages war on society. In 1987, such a criminal vanished after shooting 2 Boston officers, one fatally. He had a history of violence against cops and the protection of a group of outlaws as he fled across state and national borders. I'm Jim Kallstrom, former head of the FBI's New York office. Finding this elusive cop killer meant breaking his co-conspirators before he slipped away forever.
Boston, Massachusetts. The city's Back Bay district is an upscale area, unaccustomed to violent crime. At 12:30 a.m. on October 2nd, 1987, in one Back Bay apartment building, Meredith Falcone and her cousin were locked in an argument. He had threatened her and she was trying to get him to leave. She feared he wouldn't go away, but instead grow angrier. She called 911.
911, this call is recorded. What is your emergency?
The emergency operator dispatched 2 police vehicles to the scene. Within minutes, the first squad car arrived at the apartment building. It seemed a fairly routine call for officers George Torres and Chris Rogers. They rang Meredith Falcone on the intercom. But there was a problem with her front door release buzzer, according to Officer Torres.
She came over the speaker, the intercom, and stated to us that her buzzer doesn't work, to ring somebody else's to let us in. In the background, while she was talking, we could hear some commotion, so we knew that there was something going on inside the apartment.
Then 2 more officers, William Kennedy and Roy Sergei, arrived on the scene. So far, none of the tenants had responded to buzz them in. So the officers decided to split up.
We took the standard procedure that 2 of us would cover the back and 2 would stay in front. At that point, Officer Rogers and myself proceeded to the back.
Torres and Rogers searched for another way into the building.
We look into a little alcove behind the building, and we see a male up against the side of the wall, sort of trying to hide.
Perhaps it was the cousin the caller had mentioned.
I asked him to come towards me to find out what's going on.
The fence's gate was padlocked.
Over the fence. I told him to climb over the fence towards my side. As he put his feet on the ground, he attempted to flee. At that point, I grabbed him and I started the pat-down procedure. Once I put my hands on his shoulders, he shoved me. Gut instinct told me that he had a gun.
Torres was hit. The man kept firing at Officer Rogers, then chased Torres. Rogers couldn't get a clean shot. By then, Kennedy and Sergei had come to the side. Officer Sergei had been shot too. Though injured, Torres tried to assist Roy Sergei. Kennedy chased the suspect for several blocks, but he had disappeared into the Boston night.
As I knelt over him and leaned over, I noticed that there was blood coming out of my left arm and the left side of my chest. And at that point, I knew that I was hit several times.
Rogers called for backup and emergency personnel.
I felt the pain, the burning sensation. I started to gasp for air a little. At that point, I knew that something had gone through my lung.
Boston Dispatch put out the call that all police dread hearing. Officers down. Every available unit responded. In a matter of minutes, the normally quiet Back Bay district was swarming with emergency vehicles. Both critically wounded, Officers Roy Sergei and George Torres were rushed to the hospital. Detectives interviewed Officers Rogers and Kennedy. They explained what happened and said the assailant was an Asian male about 30 years old, of average height and with a muscular build. The description of the gunman differed from that of Meredith Falcone's cousin, the man who had started the domestic disturbance in the building. Officer Kennedy, a trained sniper, felt certain he shot the gunman as he fled, but no blood was found in that area. The injured officers had sustained 3 bullet wounds each, including life-threatening chest wounds. They were losing blood fast. Medical personnel struggled to stabilize them for emergency surgery. At the crime scene, forensic technicians began processing the area where the gunfight took place. It was littered with shell casings, bullet fragments, and blood. Detailing the placement of each item would help reconstruct exactly who fired when. Blocks away, they recovered an ammunition clip from a handgun, believed to be dropped by the gunman. It was a 15-round clip from a 9mm Sig Sauer semi-automatic, and it was empty. If it was the gunman's, they hoped to find fingerprints or some other forensic evidence that might lead them to him. In the lab, they would lift one partial print, but it was not enough for any comparison. Police issued a citywide alert for the suspect. They searched all of the Back Bay district and beyond. But that night, they found no sign of the gunman. Sergeant Detective James Fong of Boston's D14 station was named lead detective.
When I first heard that Roy, Sergei, and Joe Torres were shot, I was actually really surprised and shocked that someone would shoot Boston police officers.
Though worried about his colleagues, Detective Fong still had to do his job.
The crime scene is still a crime scene regardless of whether a police officer or a civilian involved, and you have to take everything step by step.
He first wanted to determine where the assailant had come from. Then he might be able to identify him.
I had already been given information that the individual who was involved in the shooting had come out from the back gate. We then, myself and other officers, went and investigated that area.
Inside the gated fence, they noticed a large air conditioning unit. On closer inspection, Detective Fong discovered shoe prints on the cover of the unit.
The footprints that we recovered at the scene were something consistent with where the officers, George Torres and Christopher Rogers, said that they had seen the individual.
Directly above the air conditioner was a window from a third-floor hallway.
I believe the footprints got on the cover by an individual jumping from the third-floor window onto the air-conditioned cover.
This suggested that the suspect was likely connected to the building somehow. Detectives wanted to interview the roughly 60 residents of the building. Fong decided to start with those of Asian descent.
The assailant was an Asian male, and I tried to put two to two together, thinking that maybe he did come from that building and maybe he was related or did reside at that building.
A forensic artist had created a composite sketch of the suspect based on the officer's descriptions. But the residents didn't recognize the man. Although they had heard the commotion and gunshots the night before, they could offer little help.
I interviewed all of the Asian occupants that were known to have resided in that building at that time of this incident, and none of them were able to give me any good solid leads.
Other residents couldn't help either.
I spoke to most of the tenants, and they didn't even know the next door neighbor because of the fact that it's a short-term lease type apartment. They were only there for a few days, a few weeks.
It seemed a dead end. At the hospital, the wounded officers were in critical but stable condition. Investigators were frustrated they had no leads on the man who shot them. Then, 6 days after the shooting, detectives returned to the apartment building to check out a new lead.
We had received a call from the manager who stated to us that there was an Asian male that had lived there and that she forgot to tell us about, and that they had gone in to check on his well-being because they hadn't seen him for that week.
The manager believed the place had been abandoned.
Boston Police, search warrant.
The tenant's name was Mark Terra. He loosely fit the description of the gunman.
All clear?
Earl, can you come on inside here?
A building employee pointed out a box of ammunition they discovered when they had come in to check on Terra.
Can you take a picture of that and bag it?
Technicians collected the bullets, noting they were 9mm, the same caliber as the casings and fragments found at the crime scene. In the lab, the bullets would be compared against those used in the shooting. Detective Fong checked the space where a ceiling tile was moved to the side. It was clear, but something might have been hidden there before. The apartment was spare and neat, suggesting the tenant might have served time in the military or prison. The technicians scoured the entire apartment for additional evidence.
We recovered a number of items: clothing, personal effects, and ammunition, and fingerprints and hair samples.
But nothing indicated where Terra had gone. Checking the name, they learned Mark Terra had no police record. But Detective Fong got a copy of his rental contract. On it, Terra listed a previous address and phone number in San Francisco. Detective Fong called the number and spoke with a man named Leon Perry.
Hi, this is Detective Fong with the Boston Police Department.
Perry was reluctant to talk, and he denied knowing Terra.
The individual that I spoke to was very evasive. In fact, I identified myself as a police officer with the city of Boston who was investigating a shooting of 2 police officers. The individual then became very defensive, stating to me that he did not want to help the police department.
Perry seemed suspicious, but police had nothing that connected him to the shooting. Fong had San Francisco police run a check on Perry, and they reported he had no local record there. Boston police received a copy of Mark Terra's California driver's license photo.
George, I'm going to show you some photos here.
They brought it to the one officer who got the best look at the shooter, George Torres.
This picture just jumped out right at me. And I stated to him, that's the guy that shot us. Anxiety and fear ran through my body. Anxiety knowing that we have an ID on the suspect, and fear because He's still out on the street.
With a suspect identified, the Boston police held a press conference 1 week after the shootout.
Based on the information available to me and to our investigators, which I cannot disclose, we have an unusually violent person, and quite frankly, it's scary.
They believed they knew who the gunman was. Now, they had to find him. In Boston, a shootout left 2 police officers critically wounded. Suspect Mark Terra had disappeared. Investigators discovered his last known address was in San Francisco and asked their counterparts in the Bay Area to help.
That'll be about it. Everybody has their assignments?
They sent the San Francisco police wanted posters of Terra and asked them to have their officers look out for him in case he returned there. After a morning roll call, Sergeant Greg Lynch checked the wanted poster clipboard.
On the clipboard was a flyer regarding a suspect who had shot 2 Boston police officers. I knew I had seen the individual, I just couldn't immediately place where I had seen him.
Then Sergeant Lynch remembered an off-duty incident that had occurred 6 weeks earlier. In August of that year, as he was leaving a movie theater with a friend, he had spotted a man on the street carrying a handgun.
My first thought was he may have been a police officer, but when I looked at him, the feeling I got is he was not a police officer, especially when he turned and he looked at me intently. After the light turned green, he walked across the street. I told my friend to go to the phone, dial 911, tell him who I was, where I was, and that I had a man with a gun.
Lynch's instinct told him the man was a criminal. He followed the man, though he couldn't stop him from driving away. Sergeant Lynch did get the man's Texas license plate number.
Once I realized that the man in the Boston flyer was the man I saw at the movie house, that's when I started my investigation in acquiring the information that I had called in back in August, including the license plate number, and that came back to a David Terra.
Though the suspect used the first name Mark in Boston, it was the same man. His record was clean, and his registration listed a post office box in Brownsville, Texas. Lynch forwarded the information to investigators in Boston. In turn, Boston police immediately contacted authorities in Brownsville and asked for their assistance. A detective from the Brownsville police checked the post office box and found the suspect's street address. He went to the apartment building where the suspect had lived. The detective showed the apartment manager a photo of the man known as Mark, or David Terra. The manager recognized the photo, but he didn't know him by either of those names. He knew him as Ted Otsuki. Otsuki had moved out months ago, and the manager had no idea where he had gone.
If you think of anything else that can help me, please give me a call. Thank you very much.
The Brownsville detective ran a check on the name Ted Otsuki and learned that was the suspect's true name. The names Mark and David Terra were aliases. Otsuki had an extensive criminal record, including a 1979 Texas bank heist preceded by the armed takeover of a small-town police station. In March of 1979, Otsuki overpowered the 2 officers manning the Los Fresnos police station, then took out their communications center. With the police neutralized, he walked across the street and robbed the local bank, of $70,000. Otsuki was eventually convicted of the robbery and served 7 years of a 15-year sentence in Leavenworth Prison. Within a year of his release, he was wanted again for violating parole by leaving the state of Texas.
Criminal investigations, please.
The Brownsville detective called Boston and offered to send Otsuki's fingerprints.
Brownsville, Texas. Got some information on a active case you got up there.
11 days had passed since the shooting of the officers in Boston, and the city was still on edge. By that time, police technicians there had lifted a single usable print from the suspect's rental contract. They compared it against Ted Otsuki's print sent from Texas. Checking comparison points, they made a match. Investigators were sure Otsuki was the gunman who had shot officers George Torres and Roy Sergei. They also believed he had left Massachusetts. Boston police contacted the FBI for assistance, and the case was assigned to Special Agent Jay Fallon of the Boston Field Office.
With the probable cause that he had fled the state to avoid being arrested, the FBI obtained an unlawful flight to avoid prosecution warrant.
Agents tracked down a known associate of Otsuki in the area and convinced him to cooperate.
That's what we're looking for. Okay.
He said he heard the suspect had come to Boston as part of a bank robbery plot.
Certainly first thing tomorrow morning, okay, as soon as I talk to that guy.
It was our belief that Ted Otsuki was in the Boston area in order to put together a collection of associates to formulate a plan by which they would identify and kidnap a bank official.
It appeared the shooting of the officers was completely unrelated, a tragic mistake. Investigators believed that on the night of the shootings, Ted Otsuki was in his apartment. Boston police arrived at the building in response to the domestic disturbance call.
I can't buzz you in. My buzzer doesn't work.
They believed Otsuki mistakenly assumed the officers were there to arrest him for violating his parole in Texas.
Boston PD, please let us in.
He grabbed his 9mm Sig Sauer and extra rounds of ammunition. When police buzzed asking for entry, Otsuki was ready to go. Police believed he jumped from a hallway window to the air conditioning unit below. Seconds later, the gunfight. Ted Otsuki was willing to do anything to escape. In 1987, Boston police and the FBI searched for Ted Otsuki, wanted for the shooting of 2 police officers. Special Agent Jay Fallon tried to narrow the search for the fugitive and predict his moves.
A very basic tenet in these type of investigations is to identify and interview the subject's friends and family and associates in an effort to determine any nuances insofar as what his likes, dislikes, where he might be.
They had contacted Leon Perry in San Francisco, whom they believed to be an associate, but he claimed not to know the fugitive. Surveilling Perry, they realized he was using Otsuki's car. They watched it, but never saw Otsuki. The FBI's database had revealed Leon Perry spent time in Leavenworth Prison with Otsuki. When confronted, Perry admitted knowing the suspect, but said he had not spoken to him in months and had no idea where he was. They didn't have probable cause for an arrest, but they impounded the car and arranged for spot surveillance of Perry. When they searched his apartment, they found no sign of Otsuki. In Boston, the case took a tragic turn. The two wounded officers had been recovering well. But on October 26, 1987, Roy Sergei died suddenly when a blood clot lodged in his heart, causing cardiac arrest.
Detail! Bring the sand!
Sergeant Detective James Fong.
When I first learned that Roy had passed away, I was in complete shock. I had seen him 2 nights before, and he and I were engaged in small talk conversation. I remember Roy saying to me, I'll be seeing you guys upstairs, that being in the detective's room, working alongside with us upon his recovery. I made it a personal commitment to myself that we would seek out the individual that shot and killed Roy Sergei.
Ted Otsuki grew up in Texas and had family there. Hoping to find him, investigators interviewed his relatives in the area. They were shocked by the allegations and said they had not seen or heard from Otsuki in several months. They claimed they had no idea where he was. To confirm their story, investigators subpoenaed their phone records. They discovered several recent calls from the relative's home to Otsuki's former roommate Leon Perry in San Francisco. The records also revealed calls to a second ex-convict, a former bank robber in Minnesota. The FBI brought him in, and he agreed to turn informant. He gave more details about Otsuki's plan for hostage-taking, bank robbery, and murder. Otsuki had associates create remote-controlled briefcase bombs to be handcuffed to the wrists of kidnapped bank officials. After the officials removed cash from their own vaults, Otsuki and his men would detonate the bombs to eliminate witnesses.
Many times people come up with ideas which others might think of as being harebrained. But Ted Otsuki took the time to actually plan such an endeavor and enlisted the help of professionals that were very, very capable of constructing these bombs and very capable of invading a home and very capable of robbing a bank.
Agents needed to confirm the story.
He told us that these briefcase bombs were being stored in a storage facility in San Francisco, which Otsuki had rented under an assumed name.
The FBI and the San Francisco Police Bomb Squad found the storage locker. And inside, the briefcase described by the informant. Not knowing exactly how the device was triggered, they had to be cautious. The specialists placed the briefcase far from the storage building, then attached a small charge designed to open the case without detonating any bomb inside. It was a pipe bomb, an improvised device made volatile by gunpowder held under pressure. When sparked, the powder burns so intensely, it bursts the metal pipe walls, sending deadly shrapnel flying in all directions. To render it safe, they needed to open the pipe, releasing the pressure on the gunpowder. using a water cannon is the safest way to do so, according to San Francisco FBI Special Agent Philip Senna.
The cannon slug is forced out by water under great pressure. That way you're not firing something that has heat and flame directed at the pipe. You're sending something that's relatively benign in the effort to uncap the explosive before it can explode. The device was very well constructed, quite sophisticated. It was designed to be placed and then detonated from a distance. I was told that the device was capable of killing somebody and having a relatively small blast radius, maybe 10, 15 feet, but being pretty devastating within that radius.
They later found and rendered safe a second bomb. The evidence was collected for processing at the forensics lab. Special Agent Fallon wanted to know if Otsuki's former San Francisco roommate, Leon Perry, knew about the bombs.
After the bombs were recovered, we re-interviewed Perry. Perry stated that he had no idea as to the existence of these bombs and certainly would have notified us if he did. We then sent the bombs and the materials to the lab, and we determined, the lab determined that, in fact, Perry's fingerprints were on the boxing materials that the bombs were in. Based on the fact that we truly didn't think that Perry was cooperating with us as completely as he could have and should have, we made the decision to revoke his parole and put him in jail.
Investigators had long suspected that Perry was actively involved with Otsuki. Now they had direct evidence. Unless he cooperated, Perry was facing a return to prison of up to 20 years. Special Agent Senna hoped to get him to talk.
We had enough evidence of his association with Otsuki and parole violation evidence that we had the ability to put a little pressure on him. He was comfortable in prison, so going back wasn't the worst possible thing that could have happened to him. We spent the first day probably 15 hours talking. And this went on for approximately a week, sometimes 10, 12, 14 hours. There were headache days.
Eventually, agents convinced Perry it was in his best interest to cooperate, and he began to talk.
That's where his car was. He needed me to go.
Perry said that on the day after the Boston shooting, he got a phone call in San Francisco.
He told us that Ted had called him, told him that things had gone bad in Boston.
Otsuki said he had shot 2 cops there, and that he was shot too. He told Perry he was calling from the airport in Dayton, Ohio. Otsuki said he had to fly to Texas where he could quietly get medical attention for his gunshot wound. Otsuki had left his car and the gun he used in the shootout at the Dayton airport. He asked Perry to go to Ohio and get it. Perry agreed.
Otsuki sent the keys to the automobile and the long-term parking ticket, overnight mail. He was to go to Dayton, recover the car, take the murder weapon, and destroy it. Drive the car back to San Francisco, unload the rest of the stuff from the car, and hide it.
Perry found the car as Otsuki described. Inside was the 9mm Sig Sauer.
The murder weapon was a high-quality handgun. He was reluctant to destroy that high-quality handgun. So he decided that he would take the handgun and give it to his father.
He drove to his parents' house in Missouri and left the gun there.
We contacted the father. I spoke with him. I assured him that his son was doing the right thing. I asked him if he still had the handgun, and he said that he had.
Missouri agents retrieved the Sig Sauer. Ballistics testing confirmed it was the weapon that fired the fatal bullets.
Fingerprints were found to be on a bullet within the weapon that matched Otsuki. So now we not only had the weapon that ballistics showed had killed the police officer, but we also had Otsuki's fingerprints on one of the bullets in the weapon.
With physical evidence implicating Otsuki in the murder of Roy Sergei and in the building of deadly bombs, the FBI placed Ted Otsuki on their 10 most wanted fugitives list. But the dangerous fugitive had been on the run for 4 months. By now, he could be anywhere. In 1988, the FBI continued a nationwide manhunt for Ted Otsuki, the suspected cop killer. On January 22nd of that year, they placed him on their 10 most wanted fugitives list. To further the publicity of the case, the FBI asked a nationally televised crime show to profile Otsuki. During the broadcast, an acquaintance of Otsuki's called the show's toll-free number. When it seemed he had a legitimate tip, operators patched him through to FBI Special Agent Jay Fallon.
Jay Fallon.
The caller said that Otsuki was especially close with 2 particular relatives living in Texas, and that if anyone knew Otsuki's whereabouts, it was this couple. Authorities had previously spoken with the couple, who claimed to have no contact with the fugitive.
If someone saw us at the birthday party, that's about it.
Checking the relatives' phone records, agents discovered a sudden increase in calls from Guadalajara, Mexico, where the family had other relatives. Otsuki might have fled there. The hunt extended into Mexico. FBI offices in foreign countries are called legal attachés. At the Mexico City legal attaché, FBI Special Agent Stephen Walker took on the case.
The FBI has no legal authority to conduct investigations on a foreign land according to the laws of that country. So we solicit, or the FBI would solicit, cooperation, form a liaison relationship, and request officially that the host country law enforcement agencies do the work of the FBI. An investigation is very important.
Special Agent Walker met with the Mexican Federal Judicial Police to ask for their assistance in searching for Otsuki.
We didn't have an exact address in Guadalajara, but we did have some suspect telephone numbers in that area. And investigation conducted at that time failed to locate the relative or to locate Otsuki.
Special Agent Fallon hoped Otsuki's former roommate, Leon Perry, could help them. Offering Perry immunity on the bomb-making charges, the FBI convinced him to wear a wire.
We had devised a plan by which we thought that Perry could speak with family members of Ted Otsuki in an effort to have the family be forthcoming and advise Perry as to where Otsuki might be.
Agents created a fake passport for Perry and coached him on how to draw the relatives in.
Doesn't work nights, never works in Mexico.
Perry got this bogus identification and was going to leave town, so to speak. That was the story that he was going to tell Otsuki's family in an effort to have the family reach out to Otsuki to speak with Perry. There was also the situation as to the murder weapon, and one of the biggest selling points was that Perry needed to know from the family what Ted wanted done with the murder weapon before he fled.
Check your mic again. Wait.
After several requests, Otsuki's Texas relatives agreed to meet with Perry at a restaurant in Matamoros, Mexico. Outside, Boston Detective James Fong, FBI agents and Mexican Federal Police waited, ready to listen in on the meeting.
All right. Copy. Mike, sounds good. We're ready to go.
Okay.
Other agents were inside.
Prior to the arrival of Perry, myself and another agent had gone into the restaurant and sat down in an effort to observe and surveil the situation. Perry walked in, sat at the bar.
He didn't have to wait long before Otsuki's relatives walked in.
We're going inside. Right here.
How's it going?
Agents could hear them talking, but Otsuki was never mentioned. After a few minutes, Otsuki's male relatives said they needed to leave. The surveillance teams changed plans fast.
They're leaving. They're leaving. They're on the move.
I was concerned because that was not exactly what we were expecting.
In the vehicle right now. We're going to do a movement surveillance.
However, you have to have faith in the people that you have out there.
We'll pick it up here, and then you can pick it up in a few minutes. They're coming up to you.
They would have to stay close enough to maintain the audio signal, but still avoid detection. They hoped they were finally closing in on Ted Otsuki.
We'll pick it up here, and then you can pick it up in a few minutes.
In northern Mexico, Detective James Fong and other investigators had wired an informant and followed him as he met with relatives of suspected cop killer Ted Otsuki. Surveillance teams had to stay close to maintain the signal from the microphone they had on informant Leon Perry.
Hey, listen, I need to meet with Ted. I need to talk with Ted.
It's gonna be tough, I'm telling you.
Well, where is he?
He's not anywhere around here.
If he wants me to take care of the things he wants me to take care of, I'm gonna have to meet with him. And I can't tell. I don't know how else to tell you that.
Okay, I tell you what.
Finally, the relatives said they would call Otsuki.
My wife has a number. I think what we can do is to head over to the bus station.
The bus station?
They've got phones there.
Oh, okay.
And they may be able to
help us
Well, do you
connect
think-
to him.
Okay, well, do you think he'll meet with me after we talk to him?
He's not going to meet with you. He might talk to you over the phone, but that's about it.
The bus station was in the town of Matamoros, a few miles from the Texas border. Investigators watched as the relatives placed a call on a public long-distance telephone. Undercover agents kept a closer eye on them. The relatives spoke briefly, then gave the phone to Perry.
What's up?
It was Otsuki.
Where are you?
He told Perry to destroy the 9mm Sig Sauer. He said he'd been robbing banks in Mexico, but he wouldn't say exactly where.
All right, see you.
Still, the phone call was the best lead yet for Special Agent Philip Senna.
The Mexican federal authorities were able to get the phone number that was accessed from the clerks that run the bus station. The Federal Judicial Police were able to determine the location of that number in Guadalajara.
Working as a liaison with the Mexican Federal Police in Guadalajara was FBI Special Agent Stephen Walker.
We had the telephone number that was called. We knew it was Otsuki that was called. It was listed to a residence in Guadalajara, which turned out to be an apartment in the city. So it was just a matter then of going to Guadalajara, enlisting the services of the federal police to go to the apartment.
Teams of officers staked out the building, but there was no sign of Otsuki.
We were so close, but we didn't have him yet. So in some ways it was more difficult than not knowing where he was, because now that we knew where he was, we wanted him desperately, and we didn't know if we were going to be able to accomplish that.
Then, 2 days after the stakeout began, Ted Otsuki appeared. The officers moved in. Otsuki drew a gun, but didn't get a shot off this time. The federal police arrested him, then transferred custody to the FBI the next day. Ted Otsuki was found guilty of the attempted murder of George Torres and the first-degree murder of Roy Sergei. He was sentenced to life plus 20 years. Officer Torres recovered from his wounds and returned to active duty. He retired from the Boston Police Department in 1997. Roy Sergei, promoted to detective after the shooting, left behind a wife and 3 children and scores of friends on the Boston police force. The community room at the D14 police station is dedicated to his memory. George Torres hopes the legacy of the case helps keep other officers alive.
We try not to take anything as a routine call. There's no such thing as a routine call. You go there, expect the unexpected.
After the shooting, Boston police began issuing bulletproof vests to all officers and replaced their 6-shot revolvers with 15-round semi-automatics. Now they stand a better chance at coming out alive when the unexpected happens. A contract killing. A brutal murder. A neighborhood in chaos. For the New York City Police Department and the FBI, New York City becomes the front lines in a relentless battle. The enemy, powerful drug dealers who will stop at nothing to protect their profits.
In the 1980s, the drug trade in New York City was a nightmare. Dealers made millions. Street violence was out of control. The NYPD battled the drug gangs, only to become their target. I'm Jim Kellstrom, former head of the FBI's New York office. Hundreds of FBI agents and police officers launched a bold plan to stop the violence and shut down the gangs' deadly business.
In New York City in the 1980s, the NYPD was fighting a losing battle against the drug lords.
Okay.
NYPD Detective Sergeant Mike McGinnis worked narcotics in the borough of Queens.
There were several major organizations selling cocaine and heroin in southeast Queens, and one of them was Lorenzo Fat Cat Nichols' organization.
26-year-old Queens native Lorenzo Fat Cat Nichols is a drug wholesaler. He distributes cocaine and heroin to mid-level dealers. His price for a kilo of coke is $50,000. He's worth millions. Nichols protects his operation by surrounding himself with a tight group of loyal associates. Many are family members. For police in Queens, cracking Nichols' operation will not be easy. His headquarters is at a deli at 107th Avenue and 150th Street in Jamaica, Queens.
We had conducted surveillances there. We had talked to many informants there. We had done a lot of buy and bust operations there, where we'd send out undercovers and buy drugs, and it was a continuing problem in the area. But we couldn't really make a case at that point against Fat Cat or any of the principals in his organization. That all changed in July 1985. One of our units was doing a buy and bust operation and developed some information that led us to get a search warrant for Fat Cat's grocery store and for an apartment above the grocery store. The informant told us that there was weapons, cash, and numerous drugs stored there. Myself and two detectives went into the grocery store. I went behind the counter and I walked towards the rear of the counter, and I saw there was a light on in the back room. So I went into the back room. There were three men behind a big desk, and I realized one of them was Fat Cat Nichols.
Nichols, put your hands up on the wall. Put your hands up on the wall. Put your hands up on the wall.
Police order the men up against the wall.
Put your hands on the wall now. Hands up.
Nichols reaches down for something.
Check the chair over here. You understand?
Under a towel on the chair where Nichols was sitting,
Check the chair.
detectives find a loaded automatic and a revolver.
Those are mine, man.
Police search the room and find heroin, cocaine, and $30,000 in cash. Several ounces of marijuana is on Nichols' desk.
The raiding party that went to the second floor apartment found $150,000 in cash in boxes.
Wow, that's a lot of cash.
Hundreds, perhaps thousands of pieces of cocaine, street cocaine wrapped in tinfoil, and glassines of heroin and additional weapons.
Nichols is arrested on drugs and weapons charges. 24 hours later, he's free on $70,000 bail. At the time of his arrest, Nichols was already on parole. He reports to his parole officer to see if the arrest violated the terms of his parole. He tells his parole officer, Brian Rooney, that he was only in the grocery to order a sandwich.
Take care of this for me, man. That's what we're going to try to do.
All right, thank you. Just have a seat right here.
Okay? All right, thanks.
Rooney calls McGinnis to check his story out.
So I told him what had happened, that we had arrested Nichols in the grocery store, that he had a number of weapons, but unfortunately he made bail, and I'm sure he's gone. And Rooney said to me, no, he's not. He says he's sitting outside my office here.
Rooney rearrests Nichols on the spot for violating his parole.
Now, for Nichols, what that meant was, even though he had made bail on the case where we got him, he was in on the parole violation, and there's no way around that. You can't get bail on it. So not counting the trouble that he was in with me, he owed 14 years to the state. So he was in big trouble.
A week later, McGinnis and Rooney testify at Nichols' parole hearing.
I briefly described what had happened that night, and the adjudicator immediately continued his violation of parole, which meant he was in. He was entitled to one more hearing like that, and then he would go back in for the remainder of those 14 years.
But the drug dealer has no intention of letting that happen. 2 months after the hearing, Nichols parole officer Brian Rooney gives a co-worker a ride home from work. He drives through South Jamaica, a neighborhood in Queens. He knows this section of Queens is dangerous. But he has no idea he is being followed. Suddenly, a car pulls up beside him. Brian Rooney is shot once in the arm and once in the back. He dies instantly. His killers disappear into the night. Police arrive quickly, but there is nothing they can do. They process the scene and find little evidence. No shell casings were left behind. No one saw the shooting. News of the murder quickly reaches Detective Sergeant Mike McGinnis.
Sergeant who worked in my office called me up and told me about it. Said they just killed a parole officer up on Supton Boulevard, and it was Brian Rooney. He was a very fine guy and a good parole officer. He was just a real good combination of social worker, police officer. That's necessary to be a good parole officer.
Police hit the streets to gather intelligence and find the killer. Rooney's murder is the latest in a string of homicides in South Jamaica. Rival drug gangs battle each other for territory and control of the profits.
The homicide rate in that part of the city where the drugs were being sold was skyrocketing. Shootings were commonplace. Citizens were terrified to come out of their houses. And for that reason, we knew that we had no choice but to go after these drug gangs.
The NYPD steps up their efforts in Operation Cleanup, a major long-term anti-drug operation. They bring in hundreds of officers from precincts all over the city. The operation targets drug dealers in the Jamaica Queens area where Rooney was murdered. Detectives also canvass the neighborhood near Sutphin Boulevard where the shooting occurred.
Hey man, come here for a minute.
They interview locals, hoping that somebody saw something out of the ordinary the day Rooney was killed.
What you want to know?
I know you heard about the parole officer that got shot, right?
Yeah, man, I heard about the parole officer that got shot. What you want to know about that?
You got any names? Heard anything on the street?
Two dudes saw him.
That's all you can tell me.
Two dudes.
Police learned that two men associated with Lorenzo Fat Cat Nichols were both seen in the area, Howard Mason and Perry Bellamy. Nichols had a strong motivation for killing Rooney. Investigators suspect he may have ordered Mason and Bellamy to kill his parole officer. In 1985, parole officer Brian Rooney is shot to death on a street in South Jamaica, Queens. Police suspect that one of his parolees, Lorenzo Fat Cat Nichols, ordered the hit. Mike McGinnis, former detective sergeant with the NYPD.
We were all astounded with what happened to Brian Rooney, that they would have the audacity to kill him. But I think their thinking was if they got Rooney out of the way, Nichols would be able to make the street. And where they got that from, I don't know. But that was their thinking.
As the detective who arrested Nichols, McGinnis knows he could be next on the hit list.
I looked over my shoulder. I was careful, but I never let it stop me from what I was doing. To have it happen where somebody actually says, I'm going to kill this officer to get a benefit and to maybe get myself out of jail, that was very unusual. And I think people in law enforcement and the citizens in general found it kind of unnerving.
Police know that Howard Pappy Mason, a lieutenant in the Nichols organization, and Perry Bellamy, a Mason associate, were seen in the neighborhood the night Rooney was murdered. An anonymous caller claims Bellamy was outside the car when Rooney was shot. The next day, another informant tells detectives where to find Bellamy. The tip leads investigators right to him.
Stick your hands up on the wall! What? Stick your hands on the wall now! Stick your hands on the wall!
Bellamy is picked up on the street in his neighborhood and brought in for questioning.
I have a field day with this. You understand me? I got my rights!
He admits he saw Rooney just hours before he was murdered.
In the car with Rooney.
He claims he knew about the hit and tried to warn Rooney. That's why he was seen in the area that night.
You set him up, I think.
I know if something happened to a cop.
After hours of questioning, detectives learn he did more than warn Rooney.
Look, so that's who did.
Bellamy reveals he was in the car with Rooney the night he was killed.
You're just gonna add on more problems for yourself.
He says Howard Mason shot Rooney. Bellamy was in jail weeks before the murder. He claims to have overheard Nichols telling another inmate that his parole officer was going to get what's coming to him. Authorities charged Bellamy with aiding and abetting the murder of Officer Rooney. Next, detectives tracked down Howard Pappy Mason.
What's up, officer?
What's your name?
Mason.
All right, well, stick your hands up against the wall, bud.
Officer, I don't
Stick your hands on the wall.
In the suspect's boot, they find a fully loaded .22 Derringer. Mason is charged with murder and weapons possession. Investigators have put the conspirators behind bars. But they can't prove Fat Cat Nichols ordered Mason and Bellamy to kill his parole officer. While police try to build a case against Nichols, who is still in jail, his organization continues to grow. In 1987, the illegal drug crisis in New York goes from bad to worse. A new drug explodes onto the scene.
The crack cocaine swept over the community. I've never seen anything like it.
FBI Special Agent David Higgins worked drug cases in New York.
Okay. Basically, what happens in the preparation of crack, you can take a relatively small amount of cocaine and combining it with other ingredients, you stretch it tremendously so that something that might have been sold previously as a gram amount for $100 could turn around and make the drug trafficker $1,000.
The drug sells cheap, as little as $2 a vial, and it's highly addictive. For a working-class neighborhood like South Jamaica, crack cocaine is the perfect storm.
Because of the high level of addiction, the drug users were repeatedly looking to get high, and therefore they were out trying to find sources of income anywhere they could. Naturally, they turned to crimes such as burglary and robbery, and of course, the general level of crime in these neighborhoods increased as a result.
The NYPD steps up its efforts. They rename Operation Cleanup Operation Queens. In the early 80s, a federal organized crime drug enforcement task force was formed in New York City to go after the drug dealers and the major distributors. Special Agent Richard Martinez was assigned to the task force.
It was set up as an organization that utilized FBI, New York City Police Department, Drug Enforcement Administration and other agencies to coordinate a direct attack against these elements.
Here it is, right here, South Jamaica, okay?
The OCDF task force was divided up into squads, and each squad had its own mission to accomplish. Our particular mission happened to be the cocaine, crack cocaine, and heroin dealers operating in the city.
The task force is investigating several drug gangs in Jamaica, Queens.
We felt that was the best thing we could do for the citizens in that community, was to get as much power into this group as that was going to go after these guys. As much power as possible.
Dealing drugs in South Jamaica, Queens is a lucrative business. The high profits lead to more competition and more violence. Nearly half the serious crimes in New York City are crack-related. In October 1987, a taxi dispatcher is murdered for testifying about a gun battle she witnessed. A month later, a Guyanese immigrant complains to police that drug dealers have been selling crack on his street. The next evening, someone firebombs his home.
What is the number? 911! Yeah, someone just threw something through a window.
NYPD officers from the 103rd Precinct in South Jamaica are assigned to protect the witness and his family. But the threats continue. Thomas Godbolt, a member of Lorenzo Fat Cat Nichols' organization, approaches the witness on the street. Godbolt says he has 3 weeks to leave the neighborhood, or his entire family will die.
You understand me? I hear what you're saying, man.
In 1987, drug dealers rule South Jamaica, Queens. Citizens brave enough to stand up to the dealers are intimidated and murdered. The New York City Police Department and a federal task force turn up the heat on all the drug organizations in Jamaica, Queens. They make over 2,000 arrests for the sale and possession of drugs in the 4 months between October 1987 and January 1988. In late January 1988, one of Lorenzo Nichols' lieutenants, Thomas Mustafa Godbolt, is sent to Rikers Island for threatening the Guyanese witness. On February 24th, Howard Pappy Mason, suspected of shooting parole officer Brian Rooney, is convicted on a weapons possession charge. The next day, Lorenzo Nichols is sentenced to 25 years to life on 11 counts of drugs and weapons possession.
We had cut off the head of the snake and caught a couple of his top people with him and had a great case, and so we really felt we had put that organization pretty much on the sidelines.
The NYPD and the FBI are making headway in the battle to take back the streets of South Jamaica from the drug dealers. But the war is about to take a dark turn. February 26, 1988, just days after Nichols and Mason were convicted, Officer Edward Byrne is guarding the Guyanese witness. Even with the man who threatened his family in jail, the witness continues to receive threats. Byrne is a rookie, just 22 years old. This is just another routine night. At 3 a.m., a car drives past Officer Byrne's position. There are 4 men inside. The sedan drives around the block and out of sight. "20 minutes later, 3 men sneak up behind Officer Byrne's car. The witness hears the gunshots. At 3:28 a.m., dispatch sends out the call, "Officer down" in Jamaica, Queens. Police arrive at the scene minutes later. Both front windows of Officer Byrne's police cruiser have been shot out. The rookie cop is dead.
Every police officer responds to that. Every police officer takes that personal when a police officer is murdered.
The witness Officer Byrne was protecting tells police he heard the shots and saw several men get in a tan-colored car and speed away. Investigators find an abandoned 1976 tan Olds Cutlass parked about 2 miles from where Byrne was shot. They find nothing in the car linking it to the murder.
Right after the murder of Officer Byrne, the New York City Police Department started cracking down on all the drug dealers. A tremendous amount of heat was put on all the drug dealers in Jamaica, Queens. They wanted the murders of Officer Byrne.
Hundreds of police officers working 12-hour shifts blanket 3 precincts. The 103rd, the 105th, and the 113th in southeastern Queens. They raid nearly 200 locations and question more than 300 suspected drug dealers. Investigators believe Lorenzo Nichols ordered the murder of his parole officer from jail. And the man who threatened the witness Officer Byrne was protecting had ties to Nichols' organization. Nichols is a natural suspect. At the time of Officer Byrne's murder, several members of the FBI task force are investigating a Queens drug dealer with ties to the Nichols organization.
What we did was we simply shifted focus. We were looking at something called the Smith organization, who had dealings with a number of Nichols associates. We simply moved full power. We looked right at the Nichols organization because we were gaining intelligence from the same informants that were telling us about the Smith organization. They had intelligence on the Nichols organization. We targeted the members of the organization who were still on the street operating his drug conspiracy group.
To get inside the organization, investigators use a variety of weapons. They set up undercover drug buys and use telephone wiretaps. If Nichols was involved in the murder of Officer Byrne, he's just made the biggest mistake of his life. Now the resources of the FBI, the NYPD, and the DEA are focused on bringing down his operation. A rookie cop is killed, shot to death on a street in New York City. 22-year-old Officer Eddie Byrne gave his life protecting a witness from a deadly drug gang. On February 29th, Officer Eddie Byrne is laid to rest. 10,000 police officers attend the funeral.
You can't kill a police officer and get away with it.
Special Agent Richard Martinez.
That's why police react so quickly. You can't kill a police officer and get away with it.
New York City Mayor Ed Koch vows to find those responsible. The city offers a $10,000 reward for information leading to the conviction of Byrne's killers. The community is outraged. After years of being intimidated, they are fed up with the drug dealers. Special Agent David Higgins.
Shootings would take place at any time of day. Many times bystanders, innocent bystanders in the neighborhood would be caught in the crossfire. And there were a number of notorious cases in which children were killed as a result of these shootings.
Police set up a hotline to field tips. They answer 400 calls every 8 hours. Within days, the reward money climbs to $130,000. 3 days after the shooting, an anonymous caller says he knows who shot the cop. The detective convinces the caller to meet him. The tipster tells police the shooter was Todd Scott. Police are familiar with Scott. He's a suspect in the murder of a prostitute. Detectives go looking for Scott. At the apartment of a relative, they find a witness who is willing to talk. He tells detectives he knows the men who carried out the shooting. He was present when the hit was planned. And he knows who ordered it. On February 24th, only hours after his conviction on a gun charge, Howard Mason called one of his dealers, Philip Copeland, from a payphone at Rikers Island. The next day, Copeland met with fellow gang members Todd Scott, David McClary, and Scott Cobb in an apartment 10 blocks from the murder scene.
Just got back talking to your boy Mason, man.
Copeland told them the boss is mad. He ordered them to hit a cop, any cop.
We gotta take out a cop.
The price of the contract was $8,000.
Do it, but gotta take him out.
According to the informant, the men drew straws to choose the shooter. Todd Scott would pull the trigger.
There it is. Y'all got it, man. What you gonna do? That's what's up. That's what I like to hear.
The officer's fate was sealed. The next morning, Scott came back to the apartment bragging about what they had done. They only collected a few $100s of the $8,000 they'd been promised.
That individual told how the murder actually went down, who they chose, that it wasn't Officer Byrne chosen as an individual, but they chose the police officer that was guarding the cooperating witness's house, that he was a target of opportunity.
Howard Mason wanted Byrne's murder to send a chilling message to law enforcement.
Your reputation is everything on the street if you're a drug trafficker. If it's known in your neighborhood that you are unwilling to take violent retribution for acts against you or your organization, you're not going to last very long as a drug trafficker. This was a killing that really galvanized law enforcement in New York City. The execution of a uniformed police officer who's targeted not because of any particular act or case, but because he was a police officer in and of itself.
The NYPD finally have names to link to the shooting. They issue warrants for Philip Copeland, Todd Scott, Scott Cobb, and David McClary. Copeland is already in jail on another charge. Police go looking for the other 3 men. Later that same afternoon, Scott Cobb's mother calls police. She wants to arrange her son's surrender. He never shows up. Investigators believe Cobb will eventually contact his mother. They install a trap on her telephone line to catch the numbers of all incoming calls. The shooting continues to dominate the news, and police keep up the pressure on the street. It's not long before another important witness comes forward. A young woman tells detectives she witnessed the shooting of Officer Byrne. The woman said she was on the street when she heard a shot and saw men around the police car. She hid behind a car until the men left. She doesn't think they saw her. Investigators show the witness photo lineups. She confirms Todd Scott as the man she saw at the passenger window of the patrol car. She also identifies David McClary as the man standing by the driver's side window and Copeland is the man she saw standing behind McClary.
Thank you very much.
Police now have a witness to the shooting. They need to find the 3 suspects still at large. The day after the trap on Scott Cobb's mother's phone is set up, police get a hit. An incoming call is traced to an address in Queens Village. It's one of several safe houses owned by Howard Mason. On March 3rd, less than a week after the Byrne shooting, detectives spot Scott Cobb.
Hey, man.
Freeze! Step down and put your hands behind your back.
Slow, slow.
He is quickly taken into custody. Police search the safe house. In the basement, they find Todd Scott. At noon the next day, David McClary surrenders to police. He is accompanied by his mother. Of the 4 men accused of Byrne's death, McClary is the only one who doesn't have a criminal record. Todd Scott and David McClary give conflicting statements. Each accuse the other of actually pulling the trigger. All versions of the events place Scott Cobb behind the wheel of the getaway car. Police and prosecutors are eventually able to piece together this version of events. At 3:25 a.m., Todd Scott distracted Officer Byrne by tapping on the window on the passenger side of the patrol car. David McClary shot Officer Byrne 5 times through the driver's side window. Philip Copeland was just behind McClary. All 4 men are charged with second-degree murder. But for the agents and police, larger questions loom. Did Howard "Pappy" Mason act on his own? Was Fat Cat Nichols involved in the murder? And can they prove it? Police and FBI agents suspect one of 2 men is responsible for ordering the murder of a New York City police officer. Drug wholesaler Lorenzo "Fat Cat" Nichols, or his former employee, Pappy Mason. Special Agent David Higgins.
The murder of police officer Byrne was a state investigation. It was conducted by the New York City Police Department, and while they conducted their homicide investigation, the federal authorities and the local members of the federal task force conducted a parallel investigation targeting the Nichols organization as a whole.
Investigators realized that it's not enough to put the organization's leaders and their lieutenants in jail. If they hope to stop the violence, they must destroy the gangs. Fat Cat Nichols' drug operation is huge. It brings in over $20 million a year.
We had already established through informant information that the Nichols Organization Nerve Center was the Big Mac Deli located in the Laurelton section of Queens, New York. We immediately obtained subpoenas to examine the telephone toll records for that location.
To investigate this large and dangerous organization, the FBI turns to wiretaps. Special Agent Richard Martinez is the assigned case agent.
Only that type of investigation can collect information on major conspiracies. When an undercover officer deals with one person buying drugs, he's dealt with 1 or 2 people. To get an enterprise or an organization, you need the ability to wiretap.
Agents wiretap Nichols' headquarters, but they immediately run into a problem.
The suspects involved in the Nichols organization were so paranoid about the attention of law enforcement in the neighborhood, which had occurred as a result of the Byrne shooting. They became convinced that they were the target of a wiretap. So they immediately shifted their operation to a new location.
The agents target Nichols' family. A week after the shooting, the FBI begins wiretapping Lorenzo Nichols' sister.
We knew that a lot of mid-level distributors were dealing with her. So hers was an ideal phone to get into. She was talking to Lorenzo Nichols. She was talking to about 12 mid-level distributors that she was bagging for. She was passing on instructions or conversations from the drug dealers to Lorenzo Nichols. She was in the middle of this whole organization, and that was the beauty of it. She liked to talk.
Nichols' sister is paranoid someone is spying on her.
Every day she was saying, my phone's tapped, don't talk. But then she would turn around and talk.
For one day.
At times she would leave the phone off the hook, which is basically a bug into her house. And you could hear her have conversations with these guys when they would pick up their drugs.
Hurry up.
Over the wiretap, the FBI intercepts a key call between Nichols and his sister. They're talking about Pappy Mason.
In one particular conversation, she discussed why Pappy Mason had done that thing, a reference to the actual murder of Officer Byrne. And Lorenzo responded that he didn't know why he did it. Pappy Mason had a reputation of being a kind of violent guy, and Lorenzo, near the end, was kind of pushing him away. Not really wanting to directly deal with him because he drew too much pressure from law enforcement. All indications prior to that Lorenzo Nichols was involved in this. But through that conversation, which was later backed up with debriefing of cooperating witnesses, Howard Mason ordered the execution and murder of Police Officer Byrne. Pappy Mason thought that the police department disrespected him, so therefore he ordered his contemporaries to go out and to kill any police officer.
Nichols was not involved in the murder of Officer Byrne, but his operation still continues to grow and to supply very dangerous street gangs with product.
We were able to establish from listening on the telephone that, in fact, Lorenzo Fat Cat Nichols was communicating with core members of the conspiracy. Every week or 2 weeks, a group of individuals would go up and have meetings with him and receive orders from him in person as to how the operation was to be managed.
Agents place a microphone in the visiting room at Rikers Island. They try to listen in on Lorenzo Nichols' meetings with his lieutenants. Unfortunately, the sound quality is too poor to hear anything. Agents and police continue to build a case.
We learned their methods of distribution. We learned their methods of drug preparation. We were able to identify some of their sources of supply, who was communicating with who, how it was done, what the level of their trafficking was, who some of their customers were as a result. And it established a hierarchy of the organization for us.
Yes.
We continued to conduct surveillances related to the information that we received from the wiretap.
But surveillance is difficult. Most successful drug dealers are savvy and know how law enforcement gathers information.
The drug traffickers employ counter-surveillance techniques. They actually pay people on the street for a radius of several blocks to maintain a lookout for police authorities in the area.
When agents get enough information from the wiretap, they make arrests.
If at a time, say, for example, we intercepted a call in which there was a drug transaction occurring or a transport of drugs from one location to another location, I could say to the investigators working the case, we need to take this load off.
After 5 long months, agents meet with the prosecutor.
It was time to put some charges on some subjects, to get some cooperators, and to execute the search warrants, to get the guns, to get the drugs. That'll confirm the conversations that you have.
Martinez feels they have enough probable cause to issue arrest and search warrants.
You got to know when it's time to bring the case down. And that's when we brought this case down in August.
The prosecutor agrees. It's time to take down the Nichols organization. After 5 months of investigation, Special Agent Richard Martinez plans a complex and potentially dangerous arrest operation. The goal is to completely dismantle the Nichols drug organization.
The jury needs to hear 3 things to prove guilt beyond a doubt. 1, they want the testimony of somebody inside, a cooperator. As an investigator, I want to provide tapes of the participants in the organization in their day-to-day activities. And lastly, physical evidence.
The arrest operation will hit over 20 locations. Agents believe the search warrants will give them the physical evidence they need: guns, drugs, and money. They also have arrest warrants for 38 members of Nichols' organization. They hope a few of these people will turn and become cooperators.
When a jury looks at a cooperator, the conversations that have been either intercepted through Title III or consensually recording, and physical evidence, and they all say the same thing, there's only one verdict that a jury can come back with, and that's guilty.
Agents prepare affidavits and coordinate the 400 bodies needed to execute the operation. Everyone involved understands the risks.
There's always danger when you're executing arrest warrants and search warrants. You never know how a person's going to react. That's why you go well-armed and well-equipped and with enough people to control the scenario to minimize that potential violence.
August 11th, 1988. The affidavits have been written. The arrest and search warrants have been issued. The arrest teams are prepared. Everything is in place.
Everybody knows what they're going to do, knows who they're going to pick up, knows where they have to go, and it's just time to execute.
Several of the targeted locations are very dangerous.
In this case, we deployed 3 SWAT teams in 3 locations in which we thought we might have a potential violent reaction.
The teams hit locations where drugs are being stored and sold.
Fortunately, we never tipped our hand in this investigation, so none of the defendants knew we were coming when we decided to come for them.
Nichols' sister is surprised by the arrest team. She reacts with anger.
This was a unique investigation that mothers of the main subjects of this case were involved.
My son is not even in trouble. I have to have my where's my
Lorenzo Nichols' mom was involved. Howard Mason's mother was involved. Howard Mason's mom we arrested with kilos of crack cocaine and a handgun in her residence.
Please take your hand off of my hair. Please.
All over the Jamaica section of Queens, one by one, members of the Nichols organization are arrested and evidence is collected.
During the execution of the search warrants, we found guns, we found a substantial amount of packaging material, a substantial amount of crack cocaine, and numerous individuals with cash money, and seized all those items.
Lorenzo Fat Cat Nichols and Howard Pappy Mason are both arrested in prison on drug charges that will keep them behind bars forever. By the end of the day, 30 people are arrested. 5 pieces of property are seized. Nichols' sister and other key players in the organization decide to become cooperators. The multi-million-dollar violent drug operation is effectively destroyed. For Lorenzo Nichols, it was the murder of Officer Edward Byrne, a murder he had nothing to do with, that finally brought down his drug empire.
This case dismantled the Lorenzo Nichols organization. Lorenzo was convicted and went to trial. Every member of this organization that was charged was convicted and went to prison.
In 1992, Lorenzo Nichols also pleads guilty to ordering the murder of parole officer Brian Rooney. Later that same year, there is a surprising development in the Rooney murder case. Randolph Lucas is arrested on an unrelated charge and confesses his involvement in the crime. He claims his brother Eric drove the car and that he shot and killed Brian Rooney. They were hired by a Nichols associate to hurt Rooney, but they panicked and fatally shot the parole officer. No one knows why Perry Bellamy claimed to have been at the scene that night, and why he said he witnessed Howard Mason shoot Brian Rooney. The NYPD anti-drug operation and the federal task force targeting Queens drug dealers had a decided effect on drug-related crime in New York City. FBI Special Agent David Higgins.
The task force cases in New York sent the message to the streets eventually that crime doesn't pay, that if you're going to be involved in violent drug trafficking in New York City, you're ultimately going to face justice in a federal court. I believe that message resounded on the streets because the crime rate in New York City and other major U.S. cities, the violent crime rate dropped significantly in the 1990s. And it's my belief that it dropped because of all these successful prosecutions.
Brian Rooney's name was placed on the memorial for parole officers killed in the line of duty. A foundation was created in Officer Edward Byrne's name. Their legacy is the destruction of a deadly organization that threatened the neighborhoods they had sworn to protect. An attempted cop killing, a drug house shootout, and a violent bank robbery. A gang of dangerous criminals threatens an entire community. The FBI and an undercover ex-cop put their lives on the line to track down the gunman.
In the late 1990s, one criminal terrorized an entire community. Witnesses refused to speak out. They knew the consequences could be deadly. I'm Jim Kallstrom, former head of the FBI's New York office. As the violence escalated, the FBI worked with local law enforcement to launch a complex sting operation. Their mission? To lure this vicious fugitive out of hiding with the promise of a big score, and to get him off the streets for good.
Camden, New Jersey, located just across the river from Philadelphia. It is one of the poorest, most crime-ridden cities in America. On February 12, 1997, Officer Stephen Leone patrols the street. It's 4:20 a.m. Officer Leone stops to catch up on some paperwork.
I heard a massive amount of gunfire coming from the east side of Camden. Gunfire in excess of 50 rounds. Well, it's not unusual to hear gunfire in Camden, so it's a commonplace thing. And I try to locate a general area before I put out a call for assistance, so we didn't have cops running all over the place.
Officer Leone drives toward the area of the gunshots. The streets are deserted until a suspicious car appears. Officer Leone pulls in behind the car.
Then it appeared that the vehicle saw that I was a patrol vehicle, and he made a left-hand turn. I went down on the seat. And then I came up and I could taste my own blood.
Officer Leone has been hit in the face. Somehow he pulls himself out of his vehicle.
I bailed out of the car to take up a tactical position in the rear of my vehicle in case my assailants attempted to come back or they were still in the area. I knew I was hit. I knew I was hit with a bullet in the face and the head, and I didn't know how serious I was hurt. I radioed an officer down, officer shot, shots fired.
Officer down, officer needs assistance immediately. My location. Shots fired.
Within minutes, Camden police and rescue units respond to the scene.
Did you get a description of the vehicle?
Despite his wounds, Officer Leone gives them a description of the shooter's car. Paramedics try to stabilize him for transport to a nearby hospital. The officer has bullet fragments embedded in his face.
I took 3 in the scalp, 1 in my left eye socket, 1 in my right eye socket, and a little piece of my nose. I was lucky I didn't lose my vision.
Paramedics rush Officer Leone to the hospital, while investigators scour the scene looking for evidence. Camden County Prosecutor Lee Solomon.
The idea that somebody would be so brazen, so arrogant, to fire a weapon at a police officer is something that we mobilize against very quickly.
Investigators search the area looking for the shooter's vehicle. Police are called to a house not far from the crime scene. A neighbor heard gunshots earlier that evening.
We got a call for shots being fired out here.
They notice the front door is riddled with bullet holes.
I hear something banging in the door.
According to the man, earlier that night, someone tried to break down his front door.
Coming in to get me.
The resident grabbed his gun. The intruders heard him moving in the house and opened fire. The resident returned fire, forcing the attackers to retreat. Police believe the attack was what they refer to as a ninja-style robbery, where masked gunmen invade a house to steal drugs or money. Over 50 rounds are fired into the house.
One of the bullets passed through a wall, a refrigerator, the rear wall of the residence, and the projectile was never found. Another went through a ceiling, floor ceiling, through the roof. Again, the projectile was never found. These were high-powered weapons, and so there was cause for concern.
Later that morning, a few blocks away, police discover an abandoned vehicle. The car matches Officer Leone's description of the vehicle used in the shootout.
There was broken glass, there was expended shells from the AR-15 and the .45 caliber pistol found in the car. And there was blood in the vehicle.
It was apparent to investigators that one of the perpetrators had been wounded. The officer runs the license plate. The car belongs to a woman who lives in the neighborhood. The canine unit picks up the scent from the car and tracks it to the same address listed on the vehicle registration.
And it was found 2 or 3 blocks from where I was, the location of my shooting was.
The SWAT team prepares to storm the house in case the shooters are still inside.
And there was an elementary school which they closed for the day because they thought there'd be a gun battle with these individuals that were heavily armed.
Inside the house, there is no sign of the gunman. Instead, the SWAT team finds a woman who police discover is the owner of the vehicle.
Who do you think you are? You're not allowed to be in my house. Shut up!
They learn that she is the girlfriend of Charlie Rodriguez, one of Camden's most violent criminals. Between 1984 and 1989, Charlie had been arrested for weapons and drug charges as well as making terrorist threats.
Crazy Charlie was known as a guy who would do anything. No violent act was beyond him. Crazy Charlie was the kind of guy that would shoot at a cop, would shoot at an old person, would shoot at a young person, would shoot indiscriminately.
SWAT finds no sign of the gunman. Police search the premises and question the girlfriend.
What's your name? What are you doing in my house?
What's your name?
She tells them she was at work at the time of the shooting and that she had reported her car stolen. Investigators search the house and find drops of blood. They call for forensics to collect the blood as evidence.
Evidence tech to collect some evidence, please. Have some blood on the scene.
Okay, we're doing a camera.
Investigators canvass the area, questioning the girlfriend's neighbors. They find someone who remembers seeing a few men leaving the girlfriend's house very early that morning. After looking through a photo lineup, he identifies one of the men. According to police records, the suspect is Jose Baez, on parole for manslaughter and weapons violations. Police track Baez to an apartment in Deptford, New Jersey. The dangerous ex-con is investigators' only link to a would-be cop killer. A violent rampage in Camden, New Jersey results in the shooting of a police officer. Evidence leads investigators to Jose Baez, an ex-con they believe was involved in the shooting. Baez is quickly taken into custody.
Turn around.
Investigators notice the suspect has a wound on one of his hands.
He recently sustained some type of bullet wound to his hand that he tried to sew up using thread himself.
Police arrest Baez for parole violations and take a sample of his blood for DNA testing. In the lab, Baez's blood is compared to evidence gathered in the Leone shooting.
And they were able to match the blood from him to the blood found on the scene, in the vehicle and at the house.
Investigators now have proof that Baez was in the car at the time Officer Leone was shot. But they don't have evidence to suggest that he actually pulled the trigger. At first, Baez refuses to talk to authorities. But after 2 weeks in custody, he asks to meet with the investigators.
Jose, you already been read your rights, so I have to go over that with you. I'm an investigator with Camden County, and I'm trying to figure out information about the shooting.
Baez finally agrees to talk, but only if police take steps to protect his family. He says that Charlie Rodriguez, Crazy Charlie, was involved in the Ninja robbery as well as the Leone shooting.
I believe that Baez ultimately cooperated because Charlie had threatened his family. And out of fear that something might happen, he had cooperated.
The Camden County Prosecutor's Office obtains a warrant on Charlie Rodriguez for the attempted murder of a police officer. They also offer a $1,000 reward for information leading to his arrest. The state of New Jersey places Charlie Rodriguez on the top 10 list of wanted fugitives.
There was a manhunt every day. Every Camden cop and every cop in Camden County was looking for Charlie Rodriguez.
Although Charlie is well known throughout Camden, residents are too afraid to talk to police.
Fear is a powerful weapon for somebody like Charlie Rodriguez.
In the month following Officer Leone's shooting, police question their informants. All they learn is that Charlie is hiding somewhere across the river in Philadelphia. Since Charlie is believed to have fled to another state, local police turn to the FBI for help. FBI agent John Tam obtains a federal warrant and leads a multi-state hunt for Charlie Rodriguez.
I start by getting good photographs, reviewing his prior criminal records, and I also review prison records to see who their cellmates were, who visited them while they were in prison, and an attempt to identify people they might be in contact with.
FBI agents cast a wide net.
FBI?
But like local police, the FBI find that people are too terrified to talk.
Charlie Rodriguez's reputation was of a stone-cold killer. People were very cautious about talking about him.
Agents set up surveillance on Charlie's girlfriend, hoping she will lead them to Charlie.
Rodriguez had enough self-discipline to stay away from her and keep her away from him, so that wasn't helping us either.
Over the next few months, agents continue to question their informants and learn that Charlie is hiding in a tough Philadelphia slum known as the Badlands.
A very tough neighborhood, a lot of drug activity, difficult to police. People live there intimidated by the criminals. It's a hard place to find a fugitive because you get very little cooperation.
FBI SWAT teams raid buildings in the Badlands where Charlie is believed to be hiding.
We get the fugitive task force out over in Philadelphia, 5 in the morning, we'd hit the place, we'd catch somebody, they would be a criminal, but it wouldn't be Charlie Rodriguez. You know, we'd end up arresting somebody who was wanted for something else.
Let's go.
At the same time, on the crime-ridden streets of Camden, the FBI is running an unrelated drug investigation. And Special Agent Jim Walsh gets an unexpected tip.
We obtained information that Charlie Rodriguez and his brother Joseph and some other individuals were planning to commit a bank robbery or a robbery of an armored car in the near future.
Joseph Rodriguez, he had previously been convicted of murder in an infamous drug shooting that occurred in the early 90s. Where 2 teenagers were killed on a drug corner in South Camden.
According to an informant, Charlie and Joey Rodriguez are targeting one bank in particular in the nearby town of Woodland, New Jersey. Agents set up surveillance teams. If the Rodriguez brothers hit the bank, local police are nearby ready to make the arrest. But weeks pass with no sign of the robbers.
Due to manpower needs, we couldn't sustain the surveillances. And after about a month and a half, we had to discontinue them.
On July 19, 1997, a few weeks after the FBI ends surveillance, several heavily armed men hit the Woodland Bank. One teller is too frightened to move. Two of the robbers forced the teller to empty the cash drawers. The remaining robber guards the lobby and calls out how much time has passed. One robber tries to force the supervisor to open the vault. She tells him she can't. The vault is on a timer. He tells her if she doesn't open the vault, he will kill her. In New Jersey, the shooting of a Camden police officer launches an FBI manhunt for a violent ex-con named Charlie Rodriguez. 5 months later, 3 men carrying semi-automatic weapons burst into a bank in Woodland, New Jersey. The bank supervisor can't open the vault. It's on a timer. One of the robbers threatens to kill her. The robbers are out of time. They have to leave before police arrive. The bank supervisor escapes with her life. FBI agents John Tam and Jim Walsh investigate the robbery. The customers and the bank employees are terrified. Special Agent Jim Walsh.
All the individuals were upset. One woman had to be taken to the hospital. She was so scared she suffered a minor heart attack.
Can you describe any one of them at all?
Because the violent nature of the bank robbery. I knew immediately that it was Charlie Rodriguez and his brother.
Agents and police watch the bridges to Pennsylvania and the New Jersey Turnpike for the Rodriguez brothers. They find no sign of them. At the FBI office in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, Agents Walsh and Tam study surveillance photos and footage from the bank's security cameras, looking for clues. Special Agent John Tam.
We got a good look at the weapons they were carrying, which were semi-automatic rifles, what is known as an AR-15. It's a very dangerous weapon because standard law enforcement body armor will not stop that round.
Although agents feel confident the robbers are Charlie and Joey Rodriguez, they cannot positively ID them from the surveillance.
You could not identify them in any way. They were fully clothed. They had gloves on, masks, hats.
Joey Rodriguez continues to live openly in Camden. The FBI doesn't have enough evidence to arrest him. Agents watch Joey, hoping he will lead them to Charlie.
He realized that he was the connection, if there was any, to his brother, and they stayed away from each other.
Over the next 7 months, the Camden, New Jersey area is plagued by a string of bank robberies. The Rodriguez brothers are possible suspects, but police have no hard evidence to link them to the crimes. Moorestown, New Jersey, a bedroom community north of Camden. May 23rd, 1998. More than a year after Officer Leone is shot, 3 men arrive at a Moorestown bank just before 8:30 a.m. They all carry assault rifles or machine pistols. The bank's doors are still locked. The robbers have lost precious time. They realize a bank employee has probably triggered the silent alarm. 2 of the robbers force tellers to empty the cash drawers. A 3rd gunman guards the lobby and calls out how much time has gone by. The robbers are tense. They decide the tellers are moving too slowly. The robbers frighten a late arriving teller. The getaway car won't start. The robbers panic. They threaten the teller, demanding her car keys. They escape in her car. Based on the robbers' MO, agents Tam and Walsh decide that it was probably the Rodriguez brothers.
Same builds.
Surveillance photos from the robbery provide even more clues. The weapons, masks, and even some of the clothing look identical to those used in the Woodland Bank robbery.
The pictures prove that they were, in fact, similar type clothing worn.
But the 2 agents lack enough evidence to charge either Rodriguez brother with bank robbery. The gang's MO seems to be evolving. With each robbery, they are becoming more dangerous.
The violence of this group was escalating. Eventually, somebody was going to be killed. Either a bank employee, a customer, or a police officer responding to a report of a bank robbery. There's no question somebody was going to be killed.
Agents Tam and Walsh meet with the local law enforcement agencies in the cities and towns in the Camden, New Jersey area, advising them of the gang's MO. In late July 1998, Agent Tam gets an intriguing lead from Lieutenant Roy Whitmore at the Merchantville, New Jersey Police Department.
I know an individual who may be able to help us. I know a gentleman.
He said, I have an individual who grew up with Rodriguez and who knows his brother fairly well, who might be willing to locate Crazy Charlie Rodriguez.
A year and a half into the investigation, the FBI has the potential to develop an informant with access to information about Charlie Rodriguez.
It was the biggest break possible because we had been looking essentially in the blind for somebody to cooperate with us and give Charlie Rodriguez up. Lieutenant Whitmore arranged for me to meet this person and formulate a way to draw Charlie Rodriguez out from wherever he was hiding in Philadelphia.
The informant is a former police officer who was forced to resign due to a minor weapons infraction.
Well, I found him to be intelligent, surprisingly articulate, considering that he was from a very tough urban environment. And I felt him to be honest and reliable.
The ex-cop says he wants to stop Charlie before anyone else, especially a police officer, is shot or killed.
We talked about his relationship with Joseph Rodriguez.
The agents theorize that Joseph is somehow in contact with his brother so they can plan robberies.
I suggested maybe he could find out something from Joseph as to if he ever saw his brother, was in contact with him, how he contacted him, and the frequency of the contact, because maybe we could take advantage of that to locate Charlie Rodriguez.
Agents Tam and Walsh develop a plan to use their informant to lure Charlie out of hiding. They know that the ex-cop used to sell guns.
He had worked for a firearms dealer, and that was known on the street in South Camden.
But now the ex-cop is legally barred from owning or selling firearms. The agents decide to use the informant's background to help establish his cover.
He would go to Joseph Rodriguez and ask him if he was interested in buying a handgun. We felt this would be a good introduction that he wanted to now enter the criminal element.
I knew that that would interest Charlie Rodriguez because of his violent criminal nature. Criminals are always interested in acquiring new weapons. They can get rid of whatever weapon they've used before and move on to another one not connected with their prior crimes.
The ex-cop agrees to approach Joey at a family gathering a few days later. At first, Joey is wary.
Joseph knew that he had been a police officer and that he had been let go from the department, and he used this as an introduction. I was wrongly fired, they screwed me over, and heck with law enforcement.
Let's go join the party.
A few days later, Joey contacts the ex-cop and arranges a meeting.
He said, yeah, I talked to Charlie about it, and Charlie's interested in buying the handgun.
Not long at all. I'll call you.
So we knew we were making progress, and we knew that Charlie Rodriguez was nearby.
Agent Tam tells the undercover ex-cop that they need him to meet Charlie face to face.
Joseph Rodriguez would be very happy to buy the gun and then give it to Charlie Rodriguez, but that wouldn't help us. So I emphasized to him at that point that he was going to have to hand deliver the weapon to Charlie Rodriguez, where we could arrest him.
The FBI has no intention of actually delivering a working gun to either Rodriguez brother. The ex-cop goes to Joey's apartment to try to set up the sale.
The source was taking tremendous risks. He would have been killed immediately, in my opinion, if Charlie or Joey Rodriguez found out that he was cooperating with us.
Camden, New Jersey, 1998. An ex-cop embarks on a dangerous undercover operation for the FBI. Charlie Rodriguez, also known as Crazy Charlie, is suspected of shooting a police officer and robbing banks. The ex-cop attempts to infiltrate Charlie's crew by offering to sell him guns. The undercover informant meets with Charlie's brother. Joey Rodriguez, an ex-con who has served time for manslaughter, checks to see if he is wired.
He did not wear a recording device or anything because we were afraid if that was found, he would be immediately killed.
Slowly but surely, through a series of meetings, the ex-cop wins Joey's trust. The undercover informant tells FBI agents John Tam and Jim Walsh that Joey even asked him for advice on an upcoming robbery.
I said, that's a good idea. Tell them that you're interested in participating. And I thought maybe that would give us more information about where they were, you know, where they might be meeting, and we could interrupt them before they really got the whole thing going.
The ex-cop adds that Charlie Rodriguez is looking for a big score this time, $100,000 or more.
I said, well, then we're going to suggest a crime for them to commit. If they want to rob somebody, we're going to give them a target to rob.
Agents Walsh and Tam plan a sting operation to lure Charlie Rodriguez into the open without endangering the public.
The key thing is believability. The criminal has to believe the scenario. There's going to have to be money, there has to be opportunity, there has to be a plausibility that the crime can be committed. I suggested we would have them rob an armored car servicing an automatic teller machine on the New Jersey Turnpike, because this would give us an environment where we could seal off a rest stop where the ATM was located and catch them there.
Agents Tam and Walsh pick a location they feel will work well.
And we selected a rest stop located in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. The rest stop was located below the grade of the surrounding community. So if there was any gunfire or anything like that, the rounds would tend to be shot into a hill as opposed to flying all over the place.
The big thing for us was we felt that it was in a place that we could secure and control.
The undercover man pitches the robbery proposal to Joey, who carefully evaluates his every word.
He was able to go back to Joseph Rodriguez and say, I know this armored car driver who's willing to cooperate with us. And the armored car driver had significant sports betting debt, gambling debt, and that he wanted to be cut in on the proceeds of the robbery.
The undercover ex-cop says the armored car driver will be their inside man and hand over more than $200,000.
Well, it may just come to that. So?
2 days later, Joey gets back to the ex-cop with an answer.
Joseph Rodriguez said, Charlie thinks it's a great idea. Let's go ahead with a plan and do this.
Joey says he wants to check out the rest area with a third person.
Who's that? A friend of mine.
The ex-cop is concerned by the sudden change in plans.
Joey says, don't worry about him. He's okay. You can trust him.
The newcomer's name is Jose Soto.
Soto had an extensive and violent criminal record. He'd also been convicted of second-degree murder and was out on parole. And And they drove to the rest stop and basically checked it out to see if they would be able to pull off this robbery.
The rest area has a back service road. It will allow them to enter and leave the rest stop without ever going onto the turnpike.
They knew they could get away and probably not be seen by anybody. The robbers liked everything about the location, and the FBI liked everything about the location, because it was going to allow us to isolate them in an area where they could not escape and where the public generally would be protected from any sort of firearms activity, any sort of gunshots or anything that might occur.
Joey drives around the rest stop, tracing the route the armored car will take as it approaches the ATM.
Joseph Rodriguez was familiar with the location and comfortable with it. So rather than having the cooperator have to sell it to Charlie Rodriguez, Joseph Rodriguez sold it to him for us.
The undercover informant tells the FBI that Charlie Rodriguez, the target of the sting, has approved the robbery for August 27th. With the plan now in motion, the FBI approaches the agency responsible for the turnpike and the rest area, the New Jersey State Police. Agent Tam briefs Lieutenant Colonel Robert Dunlop. Dunlop's troopers will shut down the entire area and the turnpike to protect the public.
We always have the news helicopters up in the air. Radio stations would have broadcasted that there was a backup on the turnpike. To make this thing work, we had to coordinate this where we would shut this rest area down just moments before our suspects arrived, so it wouldn't spook anyone.
SWAT teams will be positioned at the turnpike entrances and inside buildings in the rest area. 3 days before the sting, Tam and Walsh meet with FBI and police SWAT leaders to go over the plan to capture the Rodriguez brothers in Soto.
We knew they were going to be heavily armed, and we knew that at least in the case of Charles Rodriguez, they had a propensity to shoot people when confronted.
The plan is to evacuate the rest area minutes before the Rodriguez gang arrives. The FBI's informant will park behind the rest area, but then walk to the front of the building to get out of the line of fire.
Yeah, we're just talking about right now what we're going to be doing.
The SWAT team will be hidden inside a delivery truck. For backup, snipers will be positioned on a rooftop.
A tow truck would come down the access road driven by an FBI agent, and he was planning on pinning the car with the Rodriguez brothers in it at that location where they could not pull the car out.
Once the gang is trapped, the SWAT team will make the arrest.
The plan was a good one in the sense that if they had a lick of sense, they would surrender.
August 27th, 1998. Agents and state police assemble at the rest area.
Check, roger that.
The trap is set.
5 in position. Check.
Crazy Charlie is considered a very dangerous and unpredictable criminal. I think everyone that was involved in this operation knew that there was a great possibility that he wouldn't go down easy. As much as we planned, there was always the possibility that he would want to shoot it out.
Camden, New Jersey. Charlie Rodriguez is suspected of wounding a police officer and robbing banks. August 27th, 1998. FBI agents John Tam and Jim Walsh have devised a complex sting operation to trap the dangerous fugitive and his crew. Nearly 100 agents and law enforcement officers are in position at a New Jersey rest stop. But Charlie and his crew failed to show.
We're wondering where we had gone wrong. Had they found out something about it? Do they now suspect the source?
The agents are concerned about their informant, an ex-cop who helped them infiltrate the Rodriguez crew. If Charlie Rodriguez knows he's been set up, he could kill the FBI informant.
Early that morning, I get a call from the cooperator. He tells me that the Rodriguez brothers, who were to meet him at his apartment in Merchantville, New Jersey, had not arrived.
We instructed the source to reach out for Joey Rodriguez and find out why they hadn't showed up.
Despite the danger, the FBI's undercover man agrees to talk to Joey.
Where were you yesterday?
Joey says that the day before, sheriffs came looking for one of the crew, Jose Soto.
We were this close.
The undercover man informs the FBI about the problem.
His county sheriff's department had a warrant for Jose Soto for failure to pay child support. So that had kind of spooked them, and they decided not to go forward with it.
Agent Walsh asks deputies to tell Soto that all they want from him is a promise to pay his child support.
That's right.
The Rodriguez brothers and Soto are relieved. The next day, Joey meets with the ex-cop near the Ben Franklin Bridge to tell him Charlie has chosen a new date for the robbery, September 1st. The FBI sting operation is back on. According to their insider, Charlie and the crew are now supposed to arrive at his apartment early in the morning of the robbery. All of them will drive to the rest stop together.
There was some consideration to arresting him at the apartment. However, the SWAT team leaders felt that it was not as safe an environment as the rest stop because there were other people living in the apartments above and on either side.
The apartment complex was next to a playground and an elementary school. The whole environment would be awful for a violent arrest. So we wanted to get him out of there.
It was agreed upon that we would go with the original plan and it would take place at the rest stop.
The morning of the robbery, the FBI's undercover man waits at his apartment for the crew to arrive.
Up to this point, Charlie Rodriguez had not showed up. The source had not yet seen or met Charlie Rodriguez during all this.
He finally gets to meet with Charlie face to face.
Charlie, it's good to finally see you.
Can I get something to eat?
What do you want?
Donuts.
Donuts.
The source has an opportunity to go outside to get orange juice and donuts to bring back to them.
He takes the opportunity to call Agent Tam. The robbery is going forward as planned.
Yeah, they're in the apartment. It's definitely a go.
At the apartment, the crew puts on bulletproof vests and checks their weapons. The FBI's inside man puts on a distinctive baseball cap.
We had him wearing a baseball cap that everybody would recognize so that they would know that he was the cooperator.
The robbers leave for the rest area in 2 stolen cars. FBI surveillance keeps agents informed of the robbers' location so they can evacuate the rest area before they arrive.
We shut down both the rest area and the turnpike within a 10 to 15 minute time period.
The undercover man parks one of the stolen cars in a nearby neighborhood to use as a getaway car after the robbery. He then drives the Rodriguez brothers and Soto down the back road toward the rest area. Already there, FBI agents prepare for the sting.
I knew this was going to be a very dangerous operation. The source was going to be put in danger, plus a lot of agents and law enforcement personnel.
My concern was, do we not have anybody seriously injured or killed during this operation? We're just trying to arrest these people with the least amount of injury to anyone.
The FBI SWAT team waits inside a delivery truck.
We had FBI snipers on the rooftop of the rest stop in the event they got out of the car and tried to run away or fire at agents or anyone.
Nearly 100 law enforcement officers are hidden in and around the rest area.
Doesn't matter how many of these operations you've been on, there's always an adrenaline rush just prior to. What's going through my mind is that I hope we don't have gunfire. I hope no one's injured. I hope that we can take these people down without any serious problems.
The FBI's informant drives the crew along a back road into the rest area.
And the source parked exactly where he was told to park.
And our plan was to disable their vehicle by ramming it with a tow truck, which would probably knock the firearms out of their hands, and then they would be confronted by the SWAT team.
The FBI agent in the tow truck waits for the go-ahead signal, the undercover man leaving his car.
The main concern of this whole plan was getting the source out of the car, the safety of the source. And once he got out of the car, I felt everything would be fine.
But before the FBI source can get out of the car, Charlie senses that something is wrong. The informant's cover is in jeopardy of being blown. A wrong move now could cost him his life.
You want to ride in the trunk or you want to drive the car?
At a rest area in New Jersey, the FBI launches a sting operation to catch a gang of dangerous bank robbers. Gang leader Charlie Rodriguez senses a trap. He forces the driver of the car, an FBI cooperator, back into the car, preventing an FBI SWAT team from moving in. The undercover man is trapped. Agent Tam makes a difficult decision.
So I tell the SWAT team to go ahead and execute their secondary plan, which was the takedown. And that also involved the tow truck ramming the car.
The tow truck drives around to pin the robber's car.
As the tow truck approached, Charlie told the source, "Something's wrong here. This is a setup. Let's get out of here."
Needing to protect his identity, the FBI's undercover man speeds away from the SWAT team. One of the gunmen tries to shoot at the agents. The SWAT members open fire.
When the gunfire erupted, I think all of us in the back of our minds were saying, I hope we don't end up hitting our confidential source.
The tow truck slams into the rear end of the getaway car.
When it was finally over and we had these people safely in custody, I think everyone felt a tremendous amount of relief and satisfaction that it went down well.
Incredibly, the undercover man has not been wounded. FBI agents recover a huge arsenal of weapons from the Rodriguez brothers in Soto.
The amount of weapons and the amount of ammunition that was recovered from inside this car was something that I have never seen or heard of before. It's more firepower than would be necessary to rob 1,000 banks.
The weapons included an AR-15 converted to automatic, a machine pistol with a silencer, and an AK-47 Chinese clone also converted to automatic. Each of the gunmen also carried sidearms with the serial numbers drilled out and dozens of fully loaded magazines. Altogether, they had well over 1,000 rounds of ammunition.
Charlie Rodriguez made a remark that if he had known what was going to happen, he would have brought his hand grenades. For them to actually have been arrested without anyone getting hurt with the kind of ammunition and the kind of weapons that they had in their person was an incredible feat.
The Rodriguez brothers were violent criminals. I mean, they'd killed before, they would kill again. And the only solution to that is to lock them up forever, which was the ultimately what happened here.
On March 30th, 2000, Jose Soto was sentenced in federal court to 37 years for the attempted armored car robbery and weapons violations. Charlie and Joey Rodriguez are sentenced to life without parole for 2 bank robberies, the attempted robbery of an armored car, and weapons violations.